Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia, the good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co-host, Joe. Today's movie is Now and Then.
Spring and autumn usually signifies growth and change, but in the world of coming-of-age films, summer seems to be the time of transition. With school on break, kids are able to roam around the neighborhood like free-range chickens, bonding over bike rides, pick-up baseball games, and treehouse hangouts. These are the building blocks that can cement friendships that last a lifetime.
It's funny you bring up these aspects of what the girls' summer looked like in the movie in the 70s, because I feel like this is what my summers always looked like as a kid in the 90s.
Yes, well, there's that, and I was also trying to pull from The Sandlot and Stand By Me, Boys in the Hood, and that one is a little bit of an outlier, but there's some similarities to all four of them. And I guess kind of the point is a good coming of age film. They have a lot of the same similarities despite maybe age, race, and gender.
Yeah, and we've talked sometimes about if this movie was made now and we went back in time however many years, what year would the flashback part be set in? And I think we said for Now
Yeah.
and Then, if it was made now, the flashback would be like the year 2000.
2000, 2001, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I was more of a teenager by that point. I don't know. Middle school. Yeah.
No, you're in high school. Oh, what? 2000, 2001?
Oh, yeah. I did.
That's high
Yeah.
school.
Duh. I started high school in 2000. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Look, it was a really long time ago, apparently. First of all, when I think about it, I'm like, was it really that different? Because to me, the 90s and the 70s feel extremely different. But I
But they
don't
don't.
know. I don't know. Because also, I feel like, especially in the time we are living now, having a kid who's on summer break, everyone's always talking about, like, make sure they don't have too much screen time and all this stuff, which I feel like I don't worry too much because I feel like my kid's into a variety of things. So I'm not too worried about how much he's outside or how much he's watching TV. Because I feel like I also did the same thing as a kid where sometimes I was riding bikes outside. Sometimes I was watching Nickelodeon or MTV or whatever. And I
Yeah.
don't think I was like addicted to the television, but I feel like it's still kind of the same for him, especially because we live in a neighborhood with a lot of kids. I don't know. I feel like the core of how he spends his time is still pretty much the same.
Well, that's nice. I would say, generally speaking, the vibe is shift to, yes, like more screen time. They have more access to
Sure.
screens than I know we did. And then if we're going back to 1970, that obviously the girls in the film did,
Hmm.
because I don't think they spent time watching Nickelodeon when it was too hot to go outside.
Right. That's true. That's
So
true.
as technology progresses, lifestyles change. But if I put myself in 1995 as a 12-year-old or 10-year-old, my summer was a lot like the girls' summer
Hmm.
before high school, like that age. It was more similar of being outside a lot, going to the school playground,
Hmm.
riding bikes to and from or everywhere. Because unlike high school, Joe, I didn't have a car, so I had to use a bike, obviously.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's one of the things or one of the reasons why it's always similar because none of us have cars until a certain point. Even when I was old enough to drive, I didn't have like my own car that I had access to all the time anyway. So, yeah. So, like, how is he going to get around? So, our movie today is Now and Then, directed by Leslie Linka Glatter, released October 20th, 1995, rated PG-13.
In 1995, four childhood friends reunite when one of the quartet is nearing her due date and calls the rest back to home. While visiting, the foursome go down memory lane to the summer of 1970, the year they saved up for a treehouse, uncovered the mystery of young dear Johnny's death, and made a pact that they would always be there for each other when needed.
So, I remember when Now and Then came out, I remember it being a really big deal, like at least really hyped with the marketing because I'd say all the adult actresses were known. were like well known at this point. And we've talked about this before, like I think it was with Dennis Hopper. Like I don't know what I had seen with Dennis Hopper in it, but I knew who he was. Like we just knew who famous actors were. And then Christina Ricci and Thora Birch, at least to me at this age, I definitely knew who they were because Christina Ricci had already done The Addams Family, and Thora Birch, obviously, we all remembered her from Hocus Pocus, and we were apparently the only generation of people that enjoyed Hocus Pocus when it came out because
Yeah.
we talked previously when we did discuss Hocus Pocus that it was like such a flop. But yeah, I remember this being so hyped that they have the young versions and the older versions. And I do remember thinking it's cool that this cast is all girls, like young girls, because when I thought about all the movies I would watch a lot growing up, it was always focusing on young boys. And
Yeah.
unless it was, like a Disney princess. But I was trying to think of movies I watched a lot, like The Sandlot or Hook, even. Like the focus is more so always on the boys and like their kind of coming of age or their story. And if there is a girl, like in Hook, there's obviously a sister, but she's sort of like the side character.
Yeah. I agree with, yeah, that's definitely a boys' club. This is the only one I could think of that, at least for when we were kids. I think it's more popular now to do from the female perspective coming of age films.
Hmm.
But yeah, back then, and a lot of them were about baseball, and apparently girls don't play baseball, although we see differently here in the movie.
Yeah. And I don't even mean coming of age films specifically, just films geared toward kids. I think the only one that I
Oh,
could come
yeah.
up
Okay.
with off the top of my head was like Matilda. Obviously, Matilda's a girl, but I just feel like it was always a boys' story or like a group of boys. And especially if it had any kind of like sports aspect, it was definitely going to be a boys.
Yeah. Some of them had like the lone wolf female character, like in Mighty Ducks, and I
Hmm.
think maybe in Little Giants. And she was always not taken seriously, and then had to prove herself.
Oh,
And,
yeah, of
you
course.
know, of course, yeah, that's how it goes.
So I'm curious now that we've said all this about this being a girls' movie, when did you first see it?
It had to be around when it came out. So 95 was 10, definitely didn't see it in theaters. So let's say between 10 and 12, either rental or on TV. I honestly cannot remember. I do remember seeing it multiple times. So I don't know if we rented it and I just kept watching it, or it just was on cable a lot, which I want to say it was. And I feel like some of the minor things I looked into, I feel like that was correct, but I'm
Hmm.
sure you're going to tell me otherwise here in a couple seconds. But I remember really liking it as a kid. I related to the characters despite them being girls and me not being a girl. But as we mentioned kind of in the opening, they were on bikes all the time. They went on adventures together.
Hmm.
Me and my friends did that as well. We never solved any murders though, unfortunately.
Right. The one
Um,
thing that was missing.
there's a yeah, yeah. They even there's a scene where one of them plays baseball, and we did that, and you swim in the river or go in your nearby woods and hang out.
Hmm.
So very similar. Knew who Rosie O'Donnell was for sure. Don't remember why. I'm gonna blame the Flintstones, but she was just around all the time. Demi Moore I knew, but I don't know why. That's like a Dennis Hopper situation. So I
Yes.
don't think
Yes.
the movie she was in I was watching at the time.
I was also trying to figure that out too, because like I definitely knew who she was. I knew she was married to Bruce Willis, all of that. But it's like, when did I ever see a Demi Moore movie growing up?
I
The answer
think
is I did not, except this.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it in another episode, but daytime TV or just talk shows are so big.
Yes.
Social media obviously wasn't a thing, so to promote movies, they were on a late night show. I watched a lot of SNL when I was a kid. They were on there hosting. It's probably how I know a lot of these people, actually.
That's true. Because I remember watching a lot of reruns of SNL on like maybe Comedy Central, maybe something like TNT, TBS. So yeah, that's a good point.
I don't remember if Casper or this came out first or second in her filmography, But I think I've seen Casper before I saw this. I already knew Christina Ricci from that and Adam's Family, and you mentioned Tora Birch. And as a 12-year-old boy, I probably had a couple little crushes in this movie as well. So hence the repeat factor
Yeah.
at that age.
I don't think I actually mentioned when I first saw this. I was just talking about how excited, I guess, I was
Mm,
when it was coming out. But I know my mom and I saw it together. I don't think we saw it in the theater, though. I think we rented it, but like as soon as it was available, I think we've discussed how things being available to rent was almost as exciting as when it would come out in the theater. But no, I specifically remember watching it with my mom, and then, it would be on TV later and stuff, and I would catch bits and pieces. But I have not seen it in a really long time, probably since I was a kid.
I don't remember. It couldn't be anything after high school, if even that.
It had been long enough that I could not have told you anything that happens in this movie. Like, I knew
Oh,
they
really?
yeah, I knew that the older women are meeting back up for whatever reason. Like, I remember kind of what everyone is dressed like what their base personalities are, I guess. But I had forgotten the whole, like, basic plot of, them trying to figure out why this boy died and kind of what they were all doing that summer. I just remembered they were getting back together as adults, and then we flash back to when they're kids. And, like, that's all I remembered. So, like, coming into this, I was like, "Oh, I remember this. I remember this now." But, like, I almost felt like I was going in blind because it had just been so long since I had seen it.
I just remember the big sequence, big plot point of them going on this big bike ride adventure. Forgot why. I just
Mhm.
remember that was my favorite part of the movie because that's the part that reminded me of hanging out with my friends. It's like
Yeah.
very relatable, even though they went like 15 towns over or something, whatever it was.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking about my kid and his friends riding bikes outside and stuff. I would not love if I found out they rode their bikes a few towns over just to, like, go to that library or something. Like, I could have driven
Yeah,
you. That's also, things are different.
things are different.
I did think it was funny in this movie, and maybe it's because it's a small town, how they're constantly stopping in front of farmhouses that, I assume don't belong to any of these people, leaning against some random house's car or something. And I was like, did people just do that? Because I feel like if anyone did that now, like, the people in the house would come out and yell at you. We'll get into it.
Different
Yeah,
time.
different time. So we start out with our screenwriter. She goes by Marlene King professionally, but every time I saw or I read interviews with her, everyone calls her Marlene. So she was just starting out as a screenwriter, and she said that she had taken a lot of screenwriting classes, and the advice is always to write what you know. And she was like, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write about the summer that my parents got divorced. And apparently, this entire movie is pretty autobiographical because her neighborhood where she grew up in Indiana really was called the Gaslight Edition, which is the
Mhm.
neighborhood in the movie. She and her friends would go to this cemetery that backed up against the back of the neighborhood. They would do seances and, whatever silly, creepy stuff you get into as girls of a certain age, which I definitely related to. I feel like all girls have like a witchy phase, even if it's just buying the Ouija board at Toys R Us. Like, you all had a little bit of that.
I can see that.
They all really did find a broken tombstone in the cemetery one day. They thought that they might have made it happen from their little, seances that they would do. They tried to investigate what happened to that person. That's how they spent one particular summer. She didn't really give any details, which, to be fair, this is a real town and real people, so she probably didn't want to get too specific. But the working title for the movie was The Gaslight Edition all the way up until it was about to be released.
Huh.
Instead of interviews, I found so many television clips of them being interviewed, and also shows like Entertainment Tonight being on set with them, and all the girls, both the young girls and the older adult actresses, are talking about, I'm making this new movie, the Gaslight Edition. It was written on all the stuff on set. New Line Cinema changed it at the last minute for marketing purposes, which Marlene King did say she agreed that something called the Gaslight Edition, like if you just hear the title, you're not sure what that means. And I think also,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion, Gaslight is it sort of indicates more of maybe like a noir or a mystery, but maybe just because of the movie Gaslight. And if anyone doesn't know, the movie Gaslight is how we actually got the term gaslighting. It's a old noir with Angela Lansbury.
I didn't know it came from that.
Yes,
Mm.
because the husband or whatever male owner of the house is trying to drive her crazy and tell her she's imagining all these things that he's actually doing. I
Okay.
haven't seen it in a while. But yes, that's where the word gaslighting comes from.
The Gaslight Edition definitely sounds like if it was a movie, like a modern noir, like you said.
Mhm.
If you took the same exact plot and kept the title as a book, I feel like that works fine. But then as a movie, it just does. I don't know when it goes from pages to screen, but it does have a different feel to it.
Well, I already felt like it was kind of an odd name for a neighborhood, even though I understand they have like the decorative gaslights. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get the theme they were going for when they built this neighborhood, but I was already like, that's a weird thing to call it. We'll get into it a little bit with casting too. I also found out in these early announcements about the movie being made, they listed Jamie Lee Curtis as one of the adult actresses
Oh
instead of
wow.
Rita Wilson.
Interesting.
I know. I don't know if I can see it.
I can see it now.
Mhm.
Not like it was made now, just like seeing her other roles. Like for example, like a Freaky Friday where she's a little loose and kind of
Okay, she's
comical.
more of a mom and yeah. It just
So,
I
but in
feel
1995,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I could never find any further explanation. It was actually really hard to find a lot of pre-production information, but it was basically announcements where they were talking about the kids being cast or like more of a local paper saying this local kid got cast in this new movie and here are the rest of the big name actresses they're going to be working with, and they listed Jamie Lee Curtis, but I could not find anything about why she was originally cast, really why any of them were originally cast. It was like it was hard. It was very hard to find information on this one. Uh, no one wants to talk about it, except for Marlene King. But she decided to, set the movie in the 70s, obviously because that's where she grew up. But she said, on growing up in the 70s, it was awesome. It really was. It was before cell phones, like the girls communicating with flashlights out their windows and the rope and the string. Now you would just text your friend. There's no romanticism to that. It was a very special time to grow up. And there's a hint of how the world is changing when the girls meet the Vietnam vet played by Brendan Fraser on the road, and they think that everything is all hunky dory, but he sort of opens the window to the fact that things are changing. We'll talk about the Brendan Fraser thing when we get to that bit, but it hit me when she said there's no romanticism to things now because it's so easy to communicate. It did make me think of all these kind of elaborate plans we tend to see in kids' movies, like in The Sandlot, where they come up with all these ways to get the ball back instead of just knocking on this man's door. And I
Yeah.
realize with the girls trying to communicate, it's a little more out of necessity, but there is probably something like that that would be missing if you were making this movie set like now, like kids growing up now, because granted, my son does not have a phone, but also when he really wants to tell a friend something, he'll be like, "Can you text this person's mom?" So,
Yeah. They would be texting each other. They wouldn't have to go to the library. They would just use Google,
yeah,
and movies like an hour shorter.
I did think of that when the girls were at the library and they were going through those like huge books that were full of the like copies of the old newspaper. And yeah, you would just Google.
Yeah.
Okay, so Demi Moore had a production company at this time called Moving Pictures. She had a partner in the company, Suzanne Todd. They signed on to produce. It was actually one of their first projects.
Oh,
When I looked into this production company, it was a lot of movies that Demi Moore started in this time period, like G.I. Jane, that kind of stuff that, like we said, we knew of them for whatever reason, and we knew who Demi Moore was, but it's not like we were watching these movies necessarily. However,
yeah.
they also produced all the Austin Powers movies.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not starring Demi Moore.
right. And, because at first I'm like, well, was this just sort of a way for her to get into producing, but also have a little more control over the movie she was in? And then it was like all these Demi Moore movies, Austin Powers series. Okay.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. But Marlene King said they still allowed her to have a lot of involvement, which she appreciated. It's really funny given all the information I could find. It's almost like Marlene King was driving things more than our director. The director is Leslie Linka Glatter. This was her feature film debut, but I struggled to find anything about her discussing Now and Then. She has gone on to have a really big career directing TV. And like, if you think of any kind of prestige television drama in the past, I don't know, 10 to 15 years, she's probably directed at least one episode of it. Homeland, The Walking Dead, Mad Men.
Okay.
Yeah, she has like, and
Jeez.
she's been nominated for a lot of directing single episodes of television, like Emmys, Directors Guild stuff. She's had a very accomplished career. She did not have a very big film career. And then everything I found in interviews, she was just talking about like Homeland, like TV shows she's worked on. But it did sound, at least from the interviews I found with Marlene King, like Marlene King was really a driving force on the set. And I mean, this was kind of her story anyway, but also I think we've seen plenty of examples where the screenwriter felt very personal about the story they wrote and it didn't really matter. So,
I wonder why they just didn't let her direct. Sounds like some other movies that producers or writers didn't direct that might have kind of directed that
yeah,
we've talked
okay.
about.
Okay, fair. Yes.
But it could be a legal thing, a guild thing.
Yeah,
Maybe she wasn't allowed to,
that's true
like
too. Yeah.
some other people we've talked about.
There's a few quotes I found from her that we'll talk about later. And that's not the impression I got so much as I think she just does not work in film so much anymore, more TV. And you could see like her professional career has really gone on to be like, I think she was the head of like the Directors Guild at some point for a few years. I think her career's just gone on a completely different direction. But anyway, according to Marlene King, it sounded like our grown up actresses, Rita Wilson, Rosie O'Donnell, and Melanie Griffith, all signed on because Demi Moore was involved. They were all friendly off screen. However, Suzanne Todd, who was the partner in Demi Moore's production company, I found an interview with her telling a story where they were trying very hard to convince Rosie O'Donnell to take this part. Rosie just didn't think she was right for it for some reason. They didn't really specify. And Suzanne Todd talked about flying out to New York where Rosie O'Donnell was doing a show on Broadway. And they did the whole thing after her show where they like, in Suzanne Todd's words, they sort of like accosted her backstage. And they were like, go out to dinner with us and we'll convince you to do this movie. And like really wined and dined her, I guess, and like talked her ear off about it until she finally said yes. But that was really the only info I could find about any of these actresses signing on. Christina Ricci was the first of the young girls to be cast. Casper had already filmed at this point, and a lot of it was due to that and the Addams family. She's also the reason Devon Sawa got cast because she had just done Casper with him and recommended him. Thora Birch, Marlene King specifically said due to her previous work, which at this point was, I mean, pretty much hocus pocus. All these kid actors have some like random TV movies or whatever in their IMDb, but that's pretty much the big one for her. Gabby Hoffman had already been in Field of Dreams, Uncle Buck, and Sleepless in Seattle. I specifically remember her from Sleepless in Seattle. She has a smaller role as Tom Hanks's son's friend who helps him buy a plane ticket to get to New York to meet the Meg Ryan character.
I haven't thought of Uncle Buck in a long time, except for anytime we talk about John Candy. I think I've literally seen it once or twice. Same thing with Field of Dreams. I can kind of picture her in those movies, but I assumed I just knew her from this film, which is probably true for me.
I can picture her in Sleepless in Seattle when the adults all realize that the son is gone, that he's on a plane without a grown up. And they sit her down and they're like, "Where did he go? Like, what's going on?" And she just says, "NY." And the adults are like, "What does that mean?" It's like, what's the slang? Like, "No way." And they're like, "No, that's not what NY is." And they're all like arguing, trying to decode her. And she's like being such a brat. But also Rita Wilson is in that movie because she's like a friend of the Tom Hanks character trying to convince him to date. And then Ashley Aston Moore, who plays Chrissy, she really didn't have any big roles before or after this. She had an extremely short acting career. I think this was like her only movie. And then she actually died in 2007 from a combination of pneumonia and bronchitis.
To be like 25, 26, something like that.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yes. Some sources say that she died from a drug overdose, but that is apparently not true. I think just some, I don't know, celebrity outlets who don't really do their due diligence are like, she's a young actress, she's a child star, drugs.
Right.
But no,
Yeah.
she had an illness. But this filmed in the fall of 1994 in Georgia, Savannah, stood in for small town Indiana. I told you I found clips from Entertainment Tonight, and that's how I found a lot of my information. Demi Moore had a quote in one of these video interviews I saw. She said, "I can tell you the biggest reward so far, the fact that New Line greenlit this picture. In our entire crew, this is the most women I have ever seen on a film in terms of grips and gaffers and camera department. It's really exciting." And that's pretty much what everyone else echoed too, especially the actresses. Even the younger girls were like, "I've never worked with this many women before."
That's pretty sweet.
Devon Sawa, I found a quote from him saying, also, the director was phenomenal. That's one of the first times where it was pretty much a predominantly woman crew and cast and producers and director. It was huge. It was big for its time.
That would be big for its time now.
It would be. It's funny because I was thinking of, I guess, more recent teen girl movies or coming of age movies involving girls. And even when I would read interviews that were celebrating the anniversary of Now and Then, you know, they'd mention things like Book Smart, eighth grade. I can't think of what else now, but even like eighth grade, which I loved. I love that movie. I feel like it's not been seen enough. Very accurate representation of growing up as a girl in middle school. However, it's written and directed by Bo Burnham, notably not a girl. Which
Yep.
also makes it like weirder that he was able to really capture everything so well, but whatever. So Thora Birch gave an interview where she said that all the girls being around the same age, it really felt like a 24-hour sleepover on set. She said it was just a really fulfilling experience for her and the other young girls. She talked a lot about how the scenes riding her bike, she felt like that filming that kind of stuff gave her more of a sense of having a quote unquote normal childhood than her real life because she was this child actress living in LA and she never got to do stuff like that. And then other interviews I saw with Christina Ricci and Gabby Hoffman together, they said kind of the same thing. They almost got to have this kind of regular person, small town childhood while filming this movie. And also apparently a lot of filming was spent riding bikes. So um
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
yeah. But she also gave some interviews where she said they bickered a lot, both them and all the boys who played the Wormers. And Devon Sawa kind of backed this up, but they said it wasn't like anything serious. It's just they were all 12 to 14 years old. And like some days you'd be, bothered by people. And then the next day you'd be fine. It was just like very middle school. And I feel like I kind of can appreciate this.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Christina Ricci and Gabby Hoffman apparently became really good friends. They seemed to have the most acting experience, and they had already like seen each other a lot in auditions and things like that, and they already knew who each other was, but they bonded, I guess, on set, and they're still really good friends as adults. I actually found a joint interview with them where, among other things, they were reminiscing about Now and Then, but Christina Ricci was trying to get Gabby Hoffman to do a small role on Yellow Jackets. And so it was like a very recent interview, and Gabby Hoffman was like, "No, I'm too scared." And she's like, "No, it'll be fine. It's not like real. Like you're an actress." But apparently, on their off time, again, this is 1994, they would walk over to whatever the local movie theater was and watch Pulp Fiction over and over again. And
Wow.
they became obsessed with Pulp Fiction. And Devon Sawa said that sometimes he would tag along if they would like let him, basically. He just talks a lot about thinking Christina Ricci was so cool, but he already, like, he kind of looked up to her as someone his age who had like a pretty big career already. And he knew her because he had already worked with her on Casper at this point. But he just talked about thinking, okay, well, at least I know some on the set already because I know Christina and she was like super nice on Casper. But then because Christina was hanging out with this other girl, Gabby Hoffman, all the time, then he's like, oh, maybe they'll let me hang out with them sometimes.
Aw.
I know. It was really sweet though. Yeah, it's funny the people you can find still discussing certain things because a lot of it that I found was Devon Sawa. So I don't know if he's had like a career resurgence that I don't know about.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
Yep. It sounded like they filmed all the stuff with the younger girls first because a lot of the young girls were talking about how they had been so excited to work with some of the older actresses, especially because some of them had done movies with them before, like, Rita Wilson being in Sleepless in Seattle with Gabby Hoffman. One of them had done a movie with Melanie Griffith already. It could have been Thora Birch. They at least knew these older actresses. They were excited to hang out with them. But then they pretty much filmed all the stuff with the younger girls. And then it was like the last week of filming, they brought in the grown-up actresses and did all their parts. And obviously they did not interact that much.
Yeah, I don't know what the younger girls were thinking
Yeah.
because they're playing the younger
Yeah, you're
versions.
not going to
They're
have
playing the
scenes
younger
together.
versions
Mhm.
of it's like, why would you interact on
Yeah.
set, or why would they have to be there for you to interact with?
Yeah.
But I also understand that, they're in this profession as young girls and they're looking up to these
Yeah. Yeah.
other adult actresses, and yeah, I would be excited too. But yeah, like they're the adult part is probably shot in one day.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about this as we go through the movie. I had forgotten how little the adults are even in this. It did look like Demi Moore was on set more, probably because she was serving as a producer. Because in all the interviews I saw, especially things that were, clips from older TV shows, she was on set talking about things like specifically, there were some interviews I saw where they were in the cemetery set and like older Demi Moore would not have a reason to be there, right? But I think she was just on set
Yeah,
as a producer. But they did talk about the older actresses. Part of why they did it this way too was so the older actresses could base their performances off of the younger girls. And even before I read this, I felt like you could see that so well in Rita Wilson's performance, specifically as Chrissy.
yes,
Yeah.
that one sticks out the most as following, copying, mimicking
Mm-hmm.
the younger girl's performance,
Yes.
and I feel like Rosie O'Donnell and Christina Ricci are the most opposite.
Speaking of such, the character of Roberta, who is Christina Ricci, and then Rosie O'Donnell, was supposed to be gay. She was written as a gay character. She was played as a gay character by both actresses. What happened, according to Marlene King, When we screened it, keep in mind this was 20 years ago, more than that now, I guess. We
Yeah.
went to the suburbs of Chicago to screen it and test the movie. When Roberta was Rita Wilson's character's gynecologist during the labor scene at the end, people freaked out. They were like, ew, she's a lesbian and she's looking at her vagina. And we were like, what? Seriously? Do you really care? And apparently they did.
Oh boy. Um it's not what I that's not that's not the backfire I imagined. This is a doctor.
Yep.
If you have a male gynecologist and they are themselves also not gay,
Yes.
is that seems I don't know. It's a doctor. I
Yep.
just think it's weird that she's her friend. I feel like that's her. I don't know. You're not.
Yes, I thought that was more of the issue
Yeah.
personally. If you want to think too hard about it, it's like, well, wait a minute here.
I just gave that up because they really play up there still in their home small town, and I'm like, well, maybe she's
like
the only gynecologist out there.
That is what I thought too. Yes.
Sometimes you gotta just get what you got, I suppose.
Yeah. So apparently, in more than one test screening, people had a really big problem with this. Not so much with her character being a lesbian, but with the fact that she later looked at Chrissy's vagina while delivering her baby while being a lesbian. So New Line said that it was too distracting and it was ruining people's perception of the movie because this obviously happens near the end. It's like the second to last scene of the movie or whatever. And that's what people left thinking about. Which again, not sure what is wrong with all these people.
That's crazy. I just can't get over the fact that she's a doctor and doesn't matter if she's a lesbian or not. Because,
Well, yeah.
especially in this scene, we don't see anything as viewers, but childbirth happens. And that's, I don't think, as a doctor or a lesbian, she's looking at this patient and going, well, that's great.
I know.
Like,
well, yeah, exactly. Whatever. People couldn't get over this, so they changed the entire character. And like I said, both Rosie O'Donnell and Christina Ricci played her as a lesbian. But in an interview in 2023, Rosie O'Donnell said, they took every little tiny thing that I had done to build the character into an accurate gay woman and made her straight. And I realized, too, that at the time, Rosie O'Donnell had not come out as gay yet.
yeah.
So this probably hit her in a different way, like psychologically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Gee, you wonder why she took so long to come out after something like this, right? Christina Ricci, in an interview in 2022, said she was really upset about the change, saying, I just think it's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Why would you bother? It's so bizarre. She went on to call her character, quote, clearly a lesbian.
I don't know how I feel about that quote, because I can definitely see adult Berta.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I see Rosie O'Donnell for the first time in this movie, despite knowing Rosie O'Donnell, I don't know her personally, but her, as not an actor, like, okay, but she like clearly for 1995 very much looks like a lesbian. It's whether it was a stereotype of the time or whatever, but I was like, oh, okay, maybe Berta. And then there's a scene later, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I thought they were going to talk about that. And then they didn't. Like, oh, okay, I'm misreading it as an adult. For Christina Ricci, I just always thought, and even when watching it now, she's a tomboy. And I knew tomboys growing up. Some turned into lesbians, some did not.
Yeah.
And they kind of, but the base was the same. And looking back at it now, after kind of knowing that, I can kind of see it, but it doesn't come off as strong, I don't think. And I don't like to think of it like she's clearly a lesbian. Like, but is she, like, what does that even mean? I feel like not every tomboy is.
Sure.
They just are tomboys. I don't know.
So I actually thought that Roberta was going to end up being gay, specifically because of some things that Christina Ricci does. And just the way she seems so hesitant about anything that would suggest her being with a boy. That like there were little things like that. Not so much the things that you could explain away as being a tomboy. They're just little reactions like that she gives that I'm like, is she supposed to be gay? And it turned out she was.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
I can see it now that we're saying it, but while
Mhm.
watching it, it just some people develop later and aren't interested in that kind of shit at the time,
Sure, yeah.
or they're more reserved and they don't want to be like how Teeny was. She's like, oh, she's 12. She's like, oh, I'm going to have all these men. Like, that sounds a little weird coming from a 12-year-old. I don't like this.
Yes.
So I just kind of spread them as different personalities of children and didn't think too much of it. I can see it. I see that they tried to do it, but
Yeah.
it didn't. I don't know.
We'll get it. There are a couple of things they added to change this. So we'll get into it as we go through this. So when we open, it's a scene of all the girls, the younger girls playing Red Rover. And it was like, first of all, classic kids movie opening, coming of age movie opening, soft focus. There's like some oldies playing. It already made me think of
Yeah.
The Sandlot because they're just like playing in
Yeah.
the summer. Also, I played Red Rover so much in elementary school, and I don't know why, because that game's kind of like bad.
Bad how?
Like, I don't know, you're just running into each other's arms, like
Yeah. I remember playing it and
borderline
thinking it was dumb,
painful.
and
Yeah.
I was like, "This is stupid. This is not fun."
Yep. I do think it's funny though, because it's the one team is just the 4 girls left, and they have to pick someone to come over that's they know they can catch. That's not gonna like burst through their arms.
Yeah, and it's funny too how they set this character up because they have a little bit of a wider shot of the bigger team as they keep absorbing children, and he's kind of on like the left side of the screen, and his fingers just jammed up his nose.
I
I
missed
was like,
that.
"That's pretty funny." And then that's the kid they pick. Go, oh, okay. They wanted me to see him and be a
Mhm.
little like, "Ew, like little dweeb is just not even paying attention. He's got his hand up to his elbow in his nostril, and
I missed that completely. Okay, so we have this opening scene. We go into the opening credits after this though, but I really liked how they did this because the camera's kind of moving around a bedroom or an attic, whatever it's supposed to be, and you see the photos of the young girls, and then they show some objects like on a desk or whatever that make you understand like what the girls grew up to be.
yeah,
We Roberta's a doctor because we see her like certification. Teeny's an actress. We see an award. We see Sam's books. Who am I forgetting? I don't know what we see for Chrissy.
I feel like it was just a family photo of
Maybe.
adult
Oh,
Chrissy.
right. Yes. Because she's like a housewife, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she married a rich husband, like she said she was going to.
Right. I couldn't help thinking, though, that Melanie Griffith's character was making me think of Goldie Hawn's character in The First Wives Club. And I'm like, is it just because they're both blonde actresses?
The vibe is there, but
Hmm.
in general, yes. Just generally outside of this movie, yes, I think
Yeah.
they kind of remind me of each other.
Hmm.
But when I watched the trailer before the movie, my mind immediately went to First Wives Club and
Yeah.
Goldie Hawn's character. Doesn't help that when we see Melanie Griffith, she's wearing like an all white power suit. And I was like, oh my God, they're the
Oh,
same
yeah.
character. They
Hmm.
are the same character.
Yep.
They
Uh,
both get work done, et cetera, et cetera.
oh, yeah. They're making jokes about their plastic surgery. Yep. Hmm. I liked this. I like these. I like some visual clues as to, what we're getting into. However, then we hear Chrissy leaving a voicemail for, I believe it's Sam, being like, you're coming, right? Like, my due date's coming up. You promise. Kind of being very cheerful, but also being like a little pushy about it. And then we
Yeah.
cut to Sam driving in her car, absolutely pissed that she has to go back to her hometown and see her old friends. And I thought this was such a weird way to open this movie that's at least marketed as being about female friendship. And they're these old friends who always said they'd be there for each other. And Sam is just so annoyed that she has to go back and do this. And she doesn't even give off vibes at this point of liking these people, Chrissy in particular.
Yeah. I did think that was weird. I don't think they ever really talk about it. She's just like giving a monologue about, oh, sometimes you gotta go visit your friends when you made a promise when you were 12. And but like it is very bitchy and it does not seem like she wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
We find out later she and Teeny, they have moved away and became successful. The other two stayed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember that this is 1995, just kind of like we talked about with my best friend's wedding. It's not
Mm-hmm.
as easy to even email somebody at this time,
Yeah.
let alone, keep up with the other two who seem to have a more fast paced life.
I did think of that. I just couldn't help thinking that we see this in a lot of movies like this because it happens also in the First Wives Club, even though the details are a little bit different, but it's always like this strong friend group. And it's supposed to be this movie about friendship and like, especially female friendship. And it's always about how they haven't seen each other in years and ended up being horrible at keeping in touch. And at least, like you said, Chrissy and Roberta are still close because they live in the same town. And obviously, Roberta is her doctor. Aside from being her friend, she's also her doctor while she is pregnant. But I don't know. There's that little bit where we find out Teeny's been married 3 times, and none of them really know how many times she's actually been married. So it's like, well, I assume from this bit that you weren't at any of her weddings. So, like, are you all close
Right.
friends still? Because if you haven't talked in years, why the hell does Chrissy care if you're there for her to give birth to her first child?
Yeah. I don't mind that people, friendships, relationships naturally drift apart,
Right.
part of life.
Mm-hmm.
But then to like make her come to the birth of your child, it's like, I haven't seen you since you were 15, but come see my baby come out of my body. It sounds like a fun time. Like the beginning
Yeah.
when she's talking about how she's mad coming back, lightweight reminded me of it because they're all
Mm,
pulled back for a promise they made, but for a different reason.
yeah.
But that's kind of like she was just very not happy to be back home. But speaking of like horror movies, now I'm thinking about it, the beginning we talked about showing the actresses kind of gives me Rear Window vibes.
Hmm.
Just how they explain so much and literally just like scanning photographs.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the one big issue I had with this movie in general was just the way they relate to each other as adults, the way that they seem to have not really been in contact, unless Chrissy is just one of those people who's like, no, we made a promise. Do the
I think she
promise.
is.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's kind of holding on to these friendships that maybe have drifted apart. Cause I guess, in my opinion, too, if you have other people in your friend group having these professional accomplishments too, like, wouldn't you have been there for that too? Sam getting a book published is huge. Teeny, like, when her first big movie came out or something, that's huge too. So it's like, I struggle with movies like this where it's a situation where they're all supposed to have this, great bond from going way back together. And then when we get to the part where they're grown-ups, it turns out they, like, really haven't even been in touch. At least that's the impression
And
I
I'm
got. Not even just like, "Oh, we live far apart, and so we haven't seen each other."
that's the impression I got. And I'm fine with that. I'm even fine with this like kind of pissy Demi Moore, but that's the first thing we see. And the movie is very much marketed as this
Yeah.
friendship. And if this inner dialogue came a little bit later, maybe after they all met up, or if her and Teeny had an aside and like, oh yeah, we haven't
Mhm.
been here and blah blah blah, or when's the last time you've seen her? Oh, me too. I haven't seen her in this many years. Like to explain that they did grow apart, I think I'd be fine with that. It's just
Right.
that we're marketed from a point of view. Then they were friends. Now they were friends, and like boom, boom, boom. We're gonna see how they became friends and stayed friends. And the first thing we hear, man, I hate being here. This bitch made me come back to town. Like,
I know.
like
Well,
that's a different movie all of a sudden.
yes. And it's funny too because I did keep thinking of that quote from Stand By Me at the end where they're like, "I never had any friends like the friends I had when I was 12." And I feel like that quote works so well for this movie when you see everything they go through that summer and like being there for each other through these really difficult like family situations and things that are bothering each of them emotionally. But then it's like I did not get the impression that they all stayed friends, and then Chrissy's just forcing this like
Yeah.
relationship. And yeah, and like I don't know, like my two of my really good friends who I've known since I was that age came to visit when I had my son. We were living in Pennsylvania. Like everyone was in a different state at the time. And he was like 3 months old. And they came and stayed for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days and like hung out with me and my son. And it was awesome. But also, like, I was so excited for them to meet my kid. And they were so excited to see my baby and see me as a parent. And like, that's because we still talk all the time. And I would do the same thing for them. So it's like, I don't know. It was so funny having actually lived through a situation like this and having friends that I'm still close with that I've known for that long. And then seeing this Demi Moore character being like, I fucking hate my life. Like, I wrote that definitely a small town because we see this little bit of grown up Roberta, Rosie O'Donnell, just like putting stuff in the trunk of her car. And all these random boys are saying, like, hi, doctor so and so. And it's like, at that point, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's a gynecologist and all these random kids in town know her. So definitely a small town because, like, she's not their doctor.
No, she would not be their doctor.
Right.
She seems like she's like the cool doctor though, because they
That's
want to
true.
play basketball with her.
That's true. Yeah.
And also, I don't know, maybe kind of thinking about it just now, maybe they're part of the Wormer family and they also stayed in town because there's a scene where Berta plays basketball with one of them.
That's a
So
good
I don't know,
point.
maybe that's a little overthinking on my end as well. But small town, everyone knows everybody, whether you're a
Yeah.
doctor or a mailman.
Sure. Though when we're introduced to Chrissy as an adult, the way she is dressed and then like spraying all this Aquanet in her hair, and it's specifically Aquanet, I was like, is this the
Yes,
80s? Like I couldn't quite figure out for a second when
that
this
threw me up
was.
too.
Okay. And I know she
I
has a
was
very
so confused.
old-fashioned, like, look about her because she very much is copying her mom, but
Yeah,
everything's pink, which is her thing anyway. The I don't know, the pregnancy clothes looked very 80s to me, and, like, I don't know, Aquanet, that just makes me think of 80s, but we're not
yeah.
too far out from the 80s, so
Technically, we're 5 years removed, but I feel like she's at least a decade behind.
yeah, that's
'Cause
true.
I feel like her style and everything is
Mhm,
definitely like 84 to 86.
that's true. Mm,
But like you, I was confused because we see Demi Moore. She's definitely very 90s.
very
Then we see
90s.
her, and I was like, okay, hold on, I'm confused because the narration is talking about growing up in the 60s, but then the year is 1970 that they are specifically talking about.
Mhm.
She looks like 90s. She looks like 80s. Joe has no idea what timeline he's on. I need a DeLorean to get past this part of the movie.
I said they grew up in the 60s. The summer of 1970s when they're about 12 might explain a bit more of Chrissy's old-fashionedness. I guess it just more so if she's modeling herself after her mom, like the aesthetic kind of makes a little more sense that this is like she was a younger kid in the 60s. Demi Moore's outfit specifically, when you see the full outfit, like the pants, the flowy pants are so 90s.
Yeah.
90s women's, like professional women's wear, I guess. Teeny shows up in a limo because she's a famous actress. This killed me because, like, what? Like, no one just like rides around in a limo, like, especially to their small hometown. Like, she wants the attention.
Yeah. It's either that or a cab, I guess, arrive in style and comfort.
I guess, yeah. But so we see kind of how you have like the two pairs, but I don't know. Chrissy wanted them back here so bad for the birth of her child. And they're just like, oh my God, this house, it's like a time warp. And to be fair, there's like a plastic covering on the couch, which I always think is gross. But
Yeah, one of them mentioned that it hasn't changed since her mom was around.
mhm,
So it does definitely seem like a time capsule.
yes. Yeah, everything
And
about Chrissy does.
I feel like we got to point out that she actually is living in her mom's house
Yes.
because the tree house is in the backyard still. So yeah, she
Mhm.
hasn't changed anything since she was 12.
Yep. And am I correct that we're supposed to get the impression that she married the dorky kid with the glasses?
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
The
I
one
don't
who,
know.
like, comes up to her at the baseball game when they're younger, and he's like he says something like "madam" or something like that, and she was like, "Ew, get away from me."
Oh, I never even put any of that together because I didn't feel like her husband or that kid mattered. So
Yeah, well,
I
I
just
mean
kind of wrote them off.
well, so her husband's name is Morty, I think, and I kept waiting for them to say what this kid's name is because I kept feeling like that's what they were leading up to. I did read in an interview that there was supposed to be more scenes with that kid being romantically interested in Chrissy, and they had already had
Mm.
some discussions and some scenes together, and that's why he comes up to her at the baseball game kinda like he knows her because they had cut these other scenes. But I guess my impression was that the dorky kid grew up to be her husband, but I could just be completely wrong but her husband looks like a grown-up version of the dorky kid, the little bit we see of him.
Yeah, I guess with all the cut scenes, I didn't really think anything of this. I thought he walked up to her as a kid like he knew her because they all knew each other. They lived in the same
I mean,
neighborhood.
yeah.
Like I feel like all these kids knew each other.
He was just being a dork, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Roberta and Chrissy come into the living room where Teeny and Sam are sitting. Roberta and Chrissy start offering them drinks. And Chrissy's like, oh, we don't keep liquor in the house. And Roberta says, but we have beer. And I was like, are they together? Does Roberta live here? Like, I was so confused for a second.
Yeah, the royal we, I
Mhm.
guess, but
Yeah.
it did throw me off. Obviously, I know we've talked about her character being gay. In this scene, I didn't think that because I don't know, somehow knew that wasn't their baby.
Well,
Like, she
yeah.
had
Like,
a husband.
I was like, is this more radical than I remembered? What's going on? But because Roberta
Yeah,
was talking like she lived there.
that's what I thought. She just lived there. I'm like, man, that's a poor ass doctor. I guess when you have one one lady trusting you with your baby, I guess you have no income.
But
She lives in the basement or the treehouse.
that's so funny. But this is when we get a quote. I think it's Chrissy that says Roberta lives in sin with her boyfriend. But then she says something like, but she's still normal or something. And
She said something like she lives in sin. She chooses to live an alternative lifestyle or something like that. Because I wrote that down. So
okay.
about like live alternatively or whatever. And being that Chrissy is definitely supposed to be a little outdated and old timey, I just assumed because she did mention a boyfriend
Hmm.
that they were just unwed, you
Yes.
know. But now knowing what I know, I was like, ah ha ha, I see.
Well, see, they actually added that line so that people would not think she was a lesbian. They added that in post.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the boyfriend part specifically, I'm thinking they might have just
Hmm.
added because the other stuff seems to be if you take away that word,
Hmm.
they can be hinting at something else.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. So this is where we find out that the two that stayed in town have not seen Sam or Teeny in about 10 years. And this is not helping me feel like quite so warm and fuzzy
Right.
about, this friendship.
Nope.
Okay. And I think this is where we go to the flashback. We start the flashback period with the young actresses, right? They go back to 1970.
Yeah, they're kind of in the backyard talking about how long it's been, and then two of the girls get in the swings, and then it just kind of cuts or fades into the younger versions of them
Oh, because
in the
they,
treehouse or
yeah, because
on
they
the
talk
trees.
about Chrissy still having the treehouse. And this is the summer they bought the treehouse.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you said, Demi Moore is narrating the entire thing. Sam's sort of a main character.
Yeah, at first I was confused why it's her
Hmm.
narrating. And, like, didn't know, I didn't remember which character did the narration. It makes sense, her being a book writer. I'm like, okay, so usually,
Yeah.
they make the writer character the one that's kind of narrating. We saw that in Stand By Me. Even like the Sandlot, he's not a writer, but he talks for a living.
Hmm.
So, but at first, though, when she's the one bitching about coming back to town, I was like, well, what's your story? I kind of want to hear like Berta being the narrator. She lived there the whole time, but
That's a good point. Yeah.
I guess when you're 10 years removed and she's having these flashbacks, maybe Berta and Chrissy, I'm not saying every day is a flashback for them, like they're going through some like childhood PTSD, but obviously living in a town together, not together, but together, that they're remembering more.
Yeah. No,
They're
Sam,
remembering
it's
more of their childhood, and that this is like hitting Sam and Teeny really hard.
yes.
And I guess if they had to pick one, they're going to pick the writer.
Yeah, I could see this being a situation where like the memories are all coming flooding back to Sam in particular because she has not been home in so long and she is not happy about it. We immediately see this scene of Roberta taping down her chest and because she's like, whether it's tomboy vibes, whether it's lesbian vibes, we get the impression that Roberta, I mean, she's growing up with all boys, right? Her mom's passed away. She just has her dad and a bunch of brothers. I do think it's funny though, because I feel like this is always such a thing, especially if you're talking about like a female centered coming of age movie. The girls are either horrified that their chest is growing, like Roberta, or they're desperately wanting it to get bigger faster. And I had recently watched the movie version of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And those girls are always doing these like exercises that supposedly can make their chests grow. I don't know if you
Oh,
I feel like you have probably never read this book or seen this movie, but they do this thing where they're like, I must increase my bust.
no, I know of it. I'm unfamiliar with it
Yeah,
though.
that's all I could think
Uh,
of.
I actually remember this scene. I
Really?
think, yeah, I remember when I was a kid, kind of being like in shock because you see Christina Ricci in like a training bra situation. Like she's like
Oh,
obviously not
yeah.
topless, but
Hmm.
she's not wearing a shirt.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
like, whoa, what's going on here? And then I remember thinking it was funny because she's just like duct taping her chest down.
Yep.
And I always forget that she has brothers. There's just like a pile of boys in the hallway she steps over, and that's all we ever see of them.
Mm,
I always
yes.
keep thinking it's just her and her dad, and it's not, I guess.
Yeah.
There are some boys that live there or fight in the hallway. I don't
Fight
know
in
the
the hallway.
situation.
Yeah. We see Thora Birch pretending like she's winning an award. Like she obviously is already dreaming of being an actress. All I could think
Right.
of, the way she is talking, because she's being very like breathy. I just kept thinking of the scene in Hocus Pocus where she's pretending to be her brother and she's like, kiss me, I'm Allison.
Yeah, I can see that.
Chrissy's mom is Bonnie Hunt. And
Right?
yeah, totally forgot about that. For some reason, her mom decides she has to talk to her about sex. And now I don't remember why. Like if Chrissy brought this up or what.
Chrissy asks.
Chrissy
She
asked. Okay.
asks. Yeah.
This scene was so funny to me, though. The way her mom was like, you know, you say sex and it's like, boo, that's scary for mommy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say this now because it's going to come up a billion times.
Yeah.
For me, at 40, the surprise casting, every time I turn around, like, oh my God, this person's in this movie. Oh my God, this person's in this movie.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that.
Yes.
Could have made a drinking game out of that one too. But Bonnie Hunt's pretty funny in the scene, but also towards the end of it, I think I typed something like, I don't think I've ever not liked Bonnie Hunt this much.
Yeah.
She's just like this really oppressive mother, and
Yeah.
like she's like fiddling with her hair, and your drape or whatever is not folded correctly, and you see Chrissy brushing her hair, like counting to 40 or whatever.
Yes.
She got that from her mom, and
Yep.
she clearly does not tell her how sex works.
Yeah, because like immediately when she enters the scene, we can see she's a really overbearing mom. Like things have to be perfect. And I was trying to be like, okay, but props that you're trying to, have this discussion with your daughter. And then immediately goes off the rails and you're like, oh, okay. And then
Hmm.
because she does like the gardening, like watering can metaphor that, gets brought up later by Christy. And then on top of that, her mom says, I believe you're too young to be informed, but since your friends are trash mouths, I think you should hear it from me. I was
Yep.
like, damn, Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah, let's go back to being Jumanji where I like you.
I know. We're introduced to the Wormers, which are like, I don't know, just like a group of boys that are around the similar age. None of them really stand out except for Devon Sawa. Like the rest of them are even kind of like small and scrawny. Like he's obviously like taller and physically more noticeable than the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was led to believe I thought that Wormers weren't a nickname; they were their names, like they were all brothers.
Oh, see, I thought it was just like a name they gave the boys, like they're worms because they don't like them. But you know what? Maybe.
Because later on, I think they mentioned Wormer in like a more proper sense, but I could be maybe making that up. But either way, I
Yeah.
think those four boys specifically, since we see other boys later on, are brothers. They're all kind of similar with the blonde hair and like all very skinny, but there is like four height differentials. So it made me think that they were just the Wormers, these gross brothers.
Yeah. I could see that now. Now I'm wondering because I was like, they all look so different to me. I was like, they're just a group of neighborhood kids. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I was thinking of them as like the boy equivalent of this group of friends, and that's just like where my head went automatically.
If
But
it
yeah,
wasn't for
you're right.
the drastic size differences, I would have thought the same thing.
Okay.
But I feel like they're brothers. I could be wrong. Either way, they are the rival gang at this point in the movie.
Yeah, and also the only really important one is Devon Sawa's character anyway, so it's fine. I think they throw water balloons at them or something, and Roberta says, "We owe you, Wormers, and we always pay our debt." I was like, such Game of Thrones vibes going on.
Yes.
Hmm.
I want to point out, though, that the water balloons were filled with green jello, and that was kind of funny.
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about that. I wrote that I'm really digging the soundtrack so far. We see the girls like I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be their downtown area, but there's like an old Sears, like you see the old storefront and the lunch
Hmm.
counter. The girls are sitting at the restaurant doing magazine quizzes. This is
Yeah.
exactly what I did at their age. We had like YM, Teen Magazine, 17. I remember doing all these quizzes, and so many of them were like about things that we had like never experienced and were like still too young for anyway. It was always about
Yeah.
like boys and relationships, and it's like I don't think we had even spent that much time around boys yet. Like I don't know.
It checks out.
Yeah. And then Janine Garofalo is their waitress. What?
Oh, surprise celebrity number two.
Yeah, and I couldn't help thinking she was looking so 90s, but maybe that's just I associate her with like a 90s grunge kind of look, so maybe that's just on me. But the black eyeliner to me was really reading 90s.
Well, in this scene, they do kind of hint that she is a witch of some sort. And like she
Right.
comes to the table and looks vastly different than anyone else we've seen in town.
Yeah.
So it works.
Yes.
It's probably just what she wore to set that day.
Yeah. One of the girls tells Chrissy, let go of your inhibitions before you dry up like a prune. I just feel like,
I think that was Teeny when she was reading the magazine, the
oh
quiz.
yeah, all their results of the quiz. This is when she says that Roberta is like coming into her prime or something. Roberta's like, what? No, and looks so uncomfortable. This is when I
Yeah.
started to think she was supposed to be a lesbian.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I just got like she doesn't want to talk about boys. That's what I thought.
I mean, that could have been it too, but
Well, I mean, obviously for different reasons, but
yeah.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
same reaction, different meaning behind it.
Hmm. We see this little bit that Sam's parents fight all the time, and I guess her dad finally decides to leave.
Yeah. Sam's like reading a book, and her little sister comes in, and she mentions in the narration that they fought a lot, and it
Mhm.
was actually kind of comforting because it was normal to her.
Right.
And then we get to the scene you're talking about, and she's up because she stays up and she reads in bed or whatever, and she hears her dad leave
Mhm.
in the middle of the night, and it's fucked up. Like he doesn't say anything to the kids. He just obviously the mom knows, but he just gets up and leaves. And I don't think he ever comes back. I don't think they
It
ever see him
doesn't
again.
seem like he ever comes back. Yeah, that's what I thought was so messed up too, was like, it's one thing if her parents are splitting and she's struggling to deal with that, but it looks like her dad just leaves them, like all of
Yeah,
them.
all of them.
And it's funny because I'm reading, there's this really popular memoir right now called Strangers about a woman going through a divorce. And that's literally what happens to her. One day her husband's like, I don't want this life anymore. And he's like, you can have custody of the kids. Bye. And their kids are older. They're also in like a much better financial situation. But it was just stunning to me that I had these two instances like back to back where I was like, how do men just drop their kids so fast? And I realize one of these is fictional, but Marlene King did say she based this off of like the summer her own parents got divorced. So like that sucks if her dad just like literally walked out on them.
Yeah, it probably happened more often than we know, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. But like you even see later in the movie points where both Sam and her sister are saying they miss their dad.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I feel like you're correct that maybe he doesn't really come back, or at least if he does, it's later after this summer. I think this is when they all decide to go do a seance in the cemetery. And this is when I had that feeling of like, oh, all girls go through a spooky period in their lives, I guess.
yeah, it felt like watching a mini craft.
Yes, exactly. So I do remember, I didn't remember a lot coming into this, but when Chrissy starts faking them out, pretending like a ghost is speaking through her, I remembered that
Yeah,
because I was like, oh, right, she's faking them out, which I was like, good for Chrissy because you would not expect that from her.
didn't expect that from her, especially because it just doesn't seem she's the jokester of the group, and
Yes.
usually she's usually the butt of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of cool to see her get one on them. But then, like, I think the reactions are all mad at her, and I want to say Berta calls her a fart ass.
I think you're right.
It's like, which is great because I think it reminds me of just a weird name I would call one of my friends. We would just make up stuff, and yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd do that as an adult to this day.
Yep.
So I might have to add fart ass in my repertoire.
Yeah. We're also introduced to the character of Crazy Pete, who we just see like shuffling alone through the cemetery at this point, which to be fair, I'd be creeped out by that as well.
Right.
Cause like you're a bunch of 12-year-old girls and this old kind of unkempt looking man is just walking through the cemetery at night. I wrote down that it's kind of giving me the vibes of the neighbor from Home Alone. I know it's not the same guy, but
Same vibes.
yes, same vibes. I did stuff not quite like this when I was younger, but like my friends and I would ride our bikes to like the local cemeteries and like see what kind of like weird stuff was in there.
I don't think I did that.
No, we did.
Uh, yeah. I guess that makes sense though, because I wasn't a girl and I didn't go through a witchy phase.
Yeah.
So I have this note. Is this like the next time they go out, or is this you talked about the Home Alone guy,
Mhm.
but there's another instance where they are trying to do something in the middle of the night. I think they want to go try their seance again,
Mhm.
and they kind of show this nighttime communication.
Mhm.
I also forgot that they live in the same literal neighborhood.
Yeah.
They
And
are next door neighbors.
they could have a setup like this, yeah.
Yeah, but I believe Sam wakes up first and she wants to go do something. Yeah, because she's the witchy one. So she wants to have another seance.
Mhm.
And she has this like rope or string or something that's tied to the outside of her window. She starts pulling on. I'm like, what the hell is this girl doing? Well, it's ringing a bell. So it's
Mhm.
attached to Berta's house.
Mhm.
It rings her bell. She wakes up. She gets a bright ass flashlight, and like it's almost like a cop spotlight because like when they show her point of view of it flashing in the next house, it's pretty bright, but she's
Mhm.
like blaring it into Teeny's window, and that wakes her ass up, and
Mhm.
she has a walkie-talkie, and she calls Chrissy,
Mhm.
and just like 4 different ways to communicate, and I thought that was all really cool.
Yeah. No, that was fun.
It's it's not this just click, 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 click.
Yep.
Be at the cemetery in 5 minutes. It's
Yes.
very creative and fun.
So, yeah, I feel like this was maybe a separate one because this is when they go back and, like, see that Dear Johnny's headstone is broken, and they're like, "Oh my god, we did it. Like, we brought him back for real."
Yeah.
And they decide to go investigate his death because they can see on the tombstone, like, he died young. And this is when they ride their bikes to the library, like, that we're supposed to assume is pretty far away because that's the library that has all the records or whatever.
Yeah, it's a day's trip via 12-year-old legs on a bike.
I thought so. They stop at a gas station or something and, get some Cokes, and this is when Teeny says that she's stuffing her bra with pudding-filled balloons, that the
Yep.
Warmers gave her the idea, but, like, pudding gives you a better texture, like, a more realistic texture. And, we're already getting, like, some hints or whatever implications that Chrissy's, like, the fat friend and, like, eats too
Yeah.
much. And Chrissy immediately wants to know what flavor pudding Teeny is using.
Yeah, then she answers and she's like, "Oh," like it
Yep.
makes a difference. I don't know,
Yeah.
but definitely gives me more Stand By Me vibes. Just the whole traveling to the next county or whatever over. They're not seeing a dead body, but they're trying to figure out a dead body.
Mhm.
Even the fact that they don't use train tracks to follow while they're walking, but there's a scene where they show them going under a bridge and there's a train going across it. And I
Mhm.
know I'm just making connections that might not be there, but it made me feel warm and fuzzy inside,
Yeah.
like these parallel kind of stories. But yes, of course, there always is a fat friend.
There really is, yeah.
It has to
Um,
be.
I don't really know what it served in this one, but that's okay. She could have the overbearing mother in general without her having to also, like, have some fat jokes made at her expense, but I think we've talked about that so much, it's come up so much, and we've read interviews with the actors who played the fat friend enough that it's like, I don't love this for, like, these kids. Because I think it was especially the kid from the Goonies, and I'm Chunk, right?
Yep.
And that he said that was, like, kind of difficult, like, psychologically. I could not confirm this, but I saw talk on the internet that she had to gain 20 pounds to play this role, that the actress did. I couldn't find anywhere where it was coming from an actual source, so I don't know if that's true.
I would
Um,
hope not.
yeah, but this is also where Chrissy brings up the watering can flower euphemism that her mom used for sex, but she starts it by saying, "I don't wanna tongue kiss a boy because I don't wanna get pregnant," and they're like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah. Well, she clarifies she knows that's not what gets you pregnant.
Yeah,
It's the watering can on the seed in the garden that gets you pregnant.
yeah.
And there's like a cutaway to Sam drinking her Coke. And it's so relatable, even as 40-year-old man, because it's just the look that you would get, like, say, at a bar when someone just says something really stupid, like, okay, and you just like
Yeah.
side drink your bottle of beer. That's exactly what she does.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's great.
No, it's good. So eventually they keep riding and a bird poops in Chrissy's hair, and I felt so bad for her.
Well, they stop because she's
Yeah.
tired.
Well, yeah.
Um, we get more of these kind of fat jokes just in this trip they do, and then it kind of dissipates a little bit. And like other movies where there's a fat friend, they're not really that big. Like Chunk wasn't that big; he was bigger.
No, yeah, he was just bigger than the other kids.
Jerry O'Connell was a little bit of a chunk, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he grew out of it.
Yeah.
He did okay for himself.
Oh,
But
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
they rest, and poor Chrissy, of all the people, she gets pooped on, but it was her idea to rest, so it's kind of funny, I
Yeah.
guess. And the whole bike trip, like there and back, just keeps affirming how cool this soundtrack is.
Yeah. Especially like this might be one of the bits where they're doing the knock three times song.
Yeah.
It's a good soundtrack. It's really good.
I was going to mention though that what's cool about the bike scenes and the music accompanying with it is we're supposed to believe it's coming from their radio, because they have
Yeah.
a little. The girls are also singing and dancing along with the music, which is kind of an added flair.
Yeah. I think Teeny has like a little radio in her bike basket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't pick up on that until I think the knock three times song. I was gonna say with the bird poop situation, I guess we needed a reason to get them into the lake or river or whatever they end up going swimming in, so
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that's why, because they go wash out Chrissy's hair, and then they all kind of either fall in or push each other in or whatever. But this is also when Roberta, like, dives in and you hear all the girls telling her, like, it's too shallow, and then you see her body wash up, like, a little further away, and I will admit, like, I remembered this being a fake out when I saw it happen, but then when they pull her out and she's still limp, I was like, "Wait, is she faking it?" Because like, I was like, "Am I misremembering everything?"
I had the same reaction. I mean, logically, I knew she wasn't gonna die because we see
I knew it wasn't that kind of movie.
right. Well, we see Rosie O'Donnell, who's the same
That's
character, but I wasn't sure if she was seriously injured or not. That I was like, oh, did she like get a concussion? I wasn't
I
sure.
thought they were gonna have to do
So,
CPR for real for a second, yeah.
yeah. So this scene starts out reminding me of it. I'm gonna bring this up now. Every time I say it reminds me of it, I'm talking about the miniseries from the '90s.
Okay,
Just
yeah,
put that out there when they're in the ravine and whatnot. And then it quickly reminds me of the Sandlot with the fake out drowning.
yeah. It's funny because, I mean, this bit I always think of, like, the leeches in Stand By Me, them going across the
Yes.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like this explanation afterward, though, that, after it turns out Roberta is like messing with them and she kind of makes a crack at like, well, at least I know who my real friends are about like who would have done the CPR for real. There's I guess it's the voiceover from Sam where they're talking about how Roberta's mom had died and she had to them strange ways of dealing with that her mom was dead, and they didn't really understand it, but they also like never went through anything like that, like the loss and the grief, and they haven't had any close experiences with death yet or losing someone. And I thought that was a really nice way to explain it because it's so true. I feel like, especially at that age, you can have friends who have like a completely different family situation or who have gone through things that you have not in your short life. And you don't know how to deal with things because you're only 12. Like, you don't know how to really be there, so to speak, for your friend the way we
Right.
would now. And I felt like that in particular, regardless of like, I still, I don't love this scene. I don't love Roberta faking them out. I don't love that image of her like just floating face down in the water. It bothers me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like this explanation of how weird it is when you're that young to be like an actual quote unquote good friend. Cause like there's so many things that can go on in someone's life. And like, how are you actually there for your friend at 12? Like, it's weird when you don't have a relatable like home life or whatever.
Yeah. And I believe also in this same explanation, Sam, the narrator,
Hmm.
mentions that this wasn't the first time she pretended to have died or like
Yeah.
faked her death or something.
Yeah. You're right. Cause yeah, Chrissy ends up hitting her or slapping her because she got so
Slapping the shit
scared.
out of her.
And then I think Roberta's like, I actually have more respect for you now.
Then we get to the scene where they see the boys' bikes and clothes, and they're in the river, roughhousing, naked. So many thoughts of the scene. It's now. I think this is the scene that made me realize that they're probably brothers because I originally wrote,
Mm,
"Why are all these boys naked?" Because I don't feel like I'd be roughhousing in my local river with my best friends with no clothes on. It just
Sure. Yeah.
doesn't be like a thing I would probably do. I don't know. Also, I think at this point, if I'm like 12, I think I might have seen Stand By Me, and I remember the scene where Gordy faints with leeches where they were, and I don't
Oh,
want that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's part of the reason. Other than that, like I also don't want to wrestle. I'm not Greek. I'm not wrestling, nakedly with my best friends
I'm not
for sport.
Greek. That's great.
Um,
Uh,
so
yeah.
that's a lot of questions there. But then the girls are like spying on him, and there's a lot of funny commentary, mostly from Teeny, who's out of the group, I hate saying it because she's 12, but the sex-driven one, the one
The
that's
more like boy
a
crazy one.
lot older than she needs to be.
Yeah.
But she's like, "Oh my god, I saw his penis and the balls."
Yeah.
I got a good chuckle out of that because it's like very, like it's not technical, but the way she's saying it is not romantic,
Well, and
but
it's so
she's also,
specific. She's not just like, "Oh, I
yeah,
saw his junk," or whatever. She's like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very specific. They're two separate sentences.
Yes. It is funny.
So Christy's like, "You're gonna make me see because you guys are gonna talk about it all summer," and she like takes a peek, and they start talking about more sex talk, and the girls start laughing because Chrissy she gets information from her mom, and her mom has been lying to her. We know that, but
Mhm.
Chrissy chalks up to say, "I'm beginning to think my mom's misinformed.
Yeah,
Like,
that was
not that
funny.
she lied to me, and she just doesn't have the right information." And I thought that was both funny and sweet, and also kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I'm assuming you have never watched Bridgerton, but the first season when the main character gets married, she literally doesn't know how babies are made.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's like a whole thing that season where like the guy she marries is like, "Yeah, I love you, but like I never want kids." And so he makes sure they don't have kids, and then suddenly someone lets her in on how babies are actually made, and she was like, "Why did my mom never tell me this?" I'm like, "Why did your mom never tell you this? Like, what the fuck?" Yeah, and that girl was a lot older than Chrissy.
I would hope so. You said she was married.
Yes. Okay, so this is when is it Roberta? One of them sees their clothes hanging out and they're like, "This is how we can get back at them. We're gonna steal the boys' clothes
Yeah.
that are hanging on the trees." They do. They like but also they tell Chrissy to get a head start
Yes. She's like, "Why?" I'm like, "You know why. You ain't the fast one."
because
So
they're gonna have to steal the clothes and then run to their bikes and then pedal away, right? And
yeah,
poor Chrissy.
I get why they made the announcement they had the clothes to like make them mad, but I would have just taken the clothes and like ran away, and they would have had to find out the hard way. Like I would have
Right.
been a little more sneaky, but I think it's more of a statement being made.
Yeah.
Like because Berta says, "We told you we get you back. We pay our debts. Us Lannisters, we pay our debts."
Yes. So this is when the boys all, run out of the lake, whatever they're supposed to be in. They all manage to find things to cover up their fronts, but we see their butts as they're all running after the girls.
Yeah,
I read multiple interviews with Devon Sawa where he said he felt very comfortable doing this for whatever. Like he's like the director made it really comfortable. Like they all had like full frontal coverings on that like, you don't see because they're also the characters are finding objects to cover themselves with. But
yeah,
so apparently there was a rumor that started going around, especially when Devon Sawa got a lot more popular. He was more like teen heartthrob status. And there was this rumor that if you paused now and then in the right spot, you could see his penis. And this apparently caused him so much distress because he's like, it's not even true, first of all. And also, like, he had a lot of really nice things to say about the director and the set where he was like, number one, like, I'm still a teenager. Don't talk about like seeing my penis. But also, number two, like,
right.
I felt very comfortable on that set. They would have never let us like, they would have never put us in that kind of situation where we were like actually nude anyway. But he said it had like bothered him for years when he was like going through his teen years. And he said, I've always wanted to address it. It's not true. We also wore those sock things.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I remember seeing this scene as a kid, thinking it was funny because when you're little, butts and farts and
Butts are
boobs and
funny.
stuff like
Yep.
that, they're funny.
Hmm.
They're absolutely funny. I'm 40 now, and I just watched like four children's butts walk across my screen. I was like, is this like what you're supposed to be doing? Is there a butt double for a child? Like, how does this work? Again,
Apparently, for
it's
years, he was
funny.
upset about the rumors about him
Yeah.
apparently having a full frontal that was not true. So we go from this straight to like the library. The girls make it to the library. They're like dry now, whatever. They're
It's the
looking,
wind just drying them
I
off
mean, yeah,
from their fast paced bikes.
they're looking through old newspapers, and Roberta finds the article about her own mom dying in a car accident. And
Yeah.
I guess she was never really told how her mom died, is the impression we get here, because she's really upset, especially because there's stuff in the article about how she like suffered for like an hour or something until the rescue crew could get her out. Like she was
Hmm.
trapped for an hour. And Roberta's like, oh my God, she was like suffering for so long. And then
Yeah.
later on, she gets upset and says her dad just told her it was like quick and painless, which, like, of course, you're going to say that to your kid. I also felt like it would absolutely be that jarring to come across a news article of your own mom's death and find out more information than you already knew.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But she ends up photocopying it and putting it in her pocket. And I thought that was interesting because we were already told at the beginning she carries a photo of her mom everywhere.
Yeah. But now she carries the truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, her mom in the photo, that is Suzanne Todd, the producing partner. That's her sister.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So her sister got a little bit part.
Is it just me or like these newspaper article collection books? Were they comically funny to you as well? Like how large they were?
I mean, yeah, especially compared to like these little girls going through them. Yep.
They're literally the half of their bodies.
Yes. By the time we were kids, at least I remember anytime I had to go look up old news articles, they were already on they called like microfilm. Like
Yeah.
they weren't in the books like that. They were already, we didn't necessarily have computers, but they were already scanned into that like thing.
Right.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about.
All right. Yep.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So the girls are, I guess, heading back to their town and they run into Brendan Fraser on the road. He's a
Sure
Vietnam
do.
vet who did he get injured and discharged or did he finish his service?
He gets a Purple Heart, or that he talks about it.
That's true. Yeah, because the girls are like, why don't you wear it? And he's like, it doesn't mean anything. I really like this scene. I was very surprised to see Brendan Fraser. Completely forgot about this entire thing. But I like this scene. I like how it emphasizes how the girls are still just little kids in a lot of ways. Like there's so much
Yeah.
they don't know about the real world just because they're so young. But I also just liked how pessimistic Brendan Fraser's character is when one of the girls is like, but we're winning, right? And he's like, nobody's winning. And it's like
Yeah.
messing with their sense of who they are and where they come from.
Yeah. I also think it's kind of, as far as the coming of age story goes, the turning point, the final push over the edge, because
Hmm.
at least half, if not three out of four of them, are maybe they're just kind of siding with the cool guy on the street smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
But both Berta and Sam, at least, maybe even Teeny a little bit, are kind of like, yeah, parents don't know shit, because Sam's mad at her dad. Well, by both her parents, really. Berta's mad at her
Hmm.
dad for lying about her mom's death, and we never see Teeny's parents because they're never around. So they're all starting to like kind of not exactly become adults, but their lens and scope have changed a little bit. And I think this is the scene where we kind of start getting more the other side of the coin.
a lot of the movie for them, and it's maybe not as overt as other things, but it's them realizing that adults are not always right. They're not always going to tell you the truth. They don't always know everything. And I mean, in this scene in particular, it's the dichotomy between what they're being told by all the adults in their lives or the media, whatever, versus like this guy's real life, like hands-on experience with it.
Yeah.
Wanted to point out that this was originally supposed to be Leonardo DiCaprio.
They have the same age? Huh.
I don't know. I really don't know.
That's messing with me.
Yeah, but Marlene King said there was a scheduling conflict at the last minute. And she also said she was talking to an agent at one point because they're trying to get a new guy in like real fast. It was really a last minute cancellation. This agent told her they should look into this new guy named Matt Damon.
Huh.
Obviously, they found Brendan Fraser before they went that route.
He's not a new guy. This is after Encino Man and Airheads have come out.
Right.
He's maybe slowly becoming the next guy, but he's
Mhm.
not a new guy. Did you mention he gets uncredited, or were we saving that towards the end?
No, he's not credited at all. I
Yeah.
watched the end credits.
And it's noted elsewhere that he's not credited for this. And so I kind of looked a little bit at some of his stuff around this time. He's in 2 other Pauly Shore movies, Son-in-Law and the Army one. In the Army Now, I think it's called. And
Yeah.
according to IMDb, he is Link in both those movies, and he's uncredited in both those movies. Link being the character name in Encino Man. I haven't seen either of those 2 films in a long time, so I don't remember Brendan Fraser being in there. And if he is in
Mhm.
there, is he playing Link from Encino Man? I'm very confused about all these uncredited Brendan Fraser roles.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think I was familiar with him as a kid until The Mummy came out. And so then going back and seeing him pop up in other movies, I'm always like, oh, Brendan Fraser's here. So
Yeah,
I have no like real life gauge to like how popular he was before The Mummy.
I knew of him. I don't know if I've seen those 2 movies before Now and Then, but between this and The Mummy, I definitely seen Airheads, definitely seen Encino Man. So I knew of him before The Mummy.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Like, I know I saw all the Pauly Shore movies when they came out because, like, he was so popular for a minute, but I don't remember Brendan Fraser being in them. I don't know when I saw them in relation to The Mummy, so I don't know. But
Hmm.
no, but just as a 40-year-old who, you know, looks back fondly on the Mummy movies, this was fun to see Brendan Fraser.
I find it so ironic that I believe that's the next movie we're going to be talking about. And that was not planned because how would we have known this?
Yeah. He's not even credited. How would we have known?
Exactly. But it's very funny that we have just said The Mummy like 14 times, and
Yep.
we're going to say it a lot next week.
Yep. I'm so excited.
To quote you from Speed, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. So we cut to this scene where Sam and her mom and her little sister are eating dinner. Her little sister, Angela, is Demi Moore's daughter with Bruce Willis, Broomer Willis. You pointed out, though, she's
Mhm.
credited as a totally different name.
Yep. Willa Glenn.
I did not catch that. I also don't know why. I found an article or an interview with her where they just asked her briefly, like, what was it like working with your mom on Now and Then? And she said, I remember being on that set and it was like heaven for me. All I wanted to do was talk to the older girls. It was so fun. And she meant like she wanted to follow around like Gabby Hoffman and Christina Ricci and like those
Right.
girls. But I thought this scene was so funny. First of all, Cloris Leachman is their grandmother.
Yeah, we're like hitting celebrities bam, bam, bam right now.
And I was thinking too, for a first time screenwriter, first time director, like so many big names. Maybe Demi Moore signing on to produce really was, you know, a green
I
light.
think so.
Yeah. But I thought this scene was so funny because basically their grandma, their mom's mom, is coming by, like banging on their door because she heard that the dad had left and she's like, you need to fix this. We need to like figure this out. and no one's letting her in. She's just yelling outside. So not only is she like alerting the whole neighborhood to the fact that something has happened in their family, like their personal business is kind of being aired out. The mom
Yeah.
also does not want to answer the door because she doesn't want to deal with this right now. And when one of the girls is like, "Is that grandma?" And the mom's like, hide. And she just like puts the little one under their kitchen table.
Hmm.
And it's like, I don't think she can see through the door anyway. It was just very funny for her to be like, hide. And they go under the kitchen table as if that's going to like really change anything either way.
Grandma's funny in the scene.
Hmm.
They show her only two ways through what I'm assuming is supposed to be like a peephole
Yeah.
because it's very fish eyed. And she's like knocking on the door. She's like, let me in, damn it.
Hmm.
Which is funny in itself. And then just like from the side of the house, which she's on the porch, you can physically see her banging. But towards the end, she's like trying to look around the house, but while still being on the porch, and like her ass is in the air. She's like, "Why are you? I know you're in there," or whatever. And
We cut to the girls. I guess I thought they were going to a psychic. Maybe she's a tarot reader. Maybe she's both. I don't know. But surprise, it's our waitress, Janine Garofalo. And you're right. They do mention that she's kind of like witchy. I kind of forgot about that.
yeah, so I wasn't surprised.
Hmm. So we haven't mentioned that there's been talk here and there about them saving up to buy a treehouse. And
Hmm.
they're doing these like odd jobs around town to get paid to save up for the treehouse. And Chrissy says something like, I can't believe we're spending 10 treehouse dollars on this, like going to see the psychic. And I just thought the phrase treehouse dollars was so funny.
Yes, because I think Chrissy is really trying to, drive in the fact that we're now $10 further away from getting the treehouse than we were before because she doesn't want to see this psychic.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't want to be doing any of this stuff.
No.
Chrissy's such a stereotypical, like, goody goody, but she's also creeped out, which, like, I don't really blame her. But also, like, $10 to your note here is probably a lot for them.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think when we see the ad for the treehouse, it's only like, I want to say like 100 or 120 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. And it sounded like they maybe already had 100. It sounded like they were really close.
They were close. They were counting it in the restaurant the first time we see Garofalo.
Right. Also, just wanted to point out that I always thought it was so funny that they keep referring to the dead boy whose death they're investigating as Dear Johnny, because that's what his tombstone says. Like, his name's not Johnny. They call him Dear Johnny.
Yes. It
Um,
kind of works though. It's like seems like a nickname out of affection in a way.
yeah, that's true. But this whole scene with Janine Garofalo, like, I was excited to see her again, and then it ends up being kind of anticlimactic because she pulls some cards, but we don't really get an explanation, and they just like cut to the next scene.
We don't hear like I pulled this card, this means this, and blah 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 blah. We just see images and reactions. The last one we see definitely looks like it signifies murder and or death because there's like a body with a bunch of like swords in its back or something like that.
I think so. It's something like
Something,
creepy looking that you can assume
yeah,
is
kind of
not good.
violent.
So yeah, that's like we're just left with the sense that like something is not good. That's really it.
Hmm.
We cut to the next scene, which is a baseball scene, and I said, "Is it even a coming of age movie without a baseball scene? Even if the girls aren't really the ones playing baseball."
It is not.
Right.
Fact.
Fact. I think Roberta plays for a little bit,
Do you
right?
think you have to
You
think about
think
that one?
well, I'm trying to think of how we get to the end of this scene, which is the one boy insulting Roberta's mom. If I had to pick one of the girls, it would be Roberta. Like, I
This is one of the scenes I definitely remembered before rewatching it.
okay.
So yeah, they cut from the tarot to them just riding home, and they see another kid ride past them, and like, where's the fire? And softball game. So that's where they go. Berta, from what I can tell, might be the only girl playing, at least out of the foursome. I don't know if anyone else has a chance to bat because then a fight happens, and what it starts out with is this kid is ragging on Berta just for playing softball and she's a female. And then I forget if he insults her mom at first or just her, and she decks him and starts fighting him. And then after the fact, when they pull her off of this boy, I know now he insults her mother by saying, like, if she was alive, you'd be more like a lady.
Yeah,
And
something like that.
instead of her fighting him, we see Sam fight him.
Yeah, I love that Sam jumps in. It's just, I feel like it hits harder, like, no pun intended, that like her friend jumped in for her.
Absolutely.
I don't remember exactly how it starts, but I remember when Roberta's starting to get really upset with him, and Chrissy's like, Roberta, remember, you're a lady.
It's, oh, you can't play, you're a girl. I think that's the basic part before the
Probably,
first punch is thrown. And then after he gets his ass kicked, that's when he insults her dead mother, I think.
Mm-hmm. This is when Sam comes home and finds out that her mom is dating Hank Azaria now.
Number 7.
I wrote that I could not take this seriously. Agador Spartacus, why are you wearing shoes?
That's from the Robin Williams movie, isn't
The
it?
Birdcage.
Okay.
Which came out after this, like like a year or something after this. So not too far apart, but I just was struggling to think of him as a straight man. And but also my son is really into The Birdcage. He thinks it's so funny. So I've been watching it more often, and even before my son was into it, like that was one of my comfort movies. I would watch it every now and then, and like I always think of him like falling when he's trying to wear the shoes and, dancing while he's supposed to be like cleaning their house or whatever. So coming in and seeing this guy in her house with his like jaunty neckerchief was like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't reading heterosexual to me, but that's my own like,
That's your own, yeah.
I know. But he's like Agador Spartacus, this time with a nice kerchief.
I read it differently because I'm already feeling like these 4 girls are kind of playing Nancy Drew / Scooby Doo, and then this guy shows up dressed like Fred.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And even though in The Simpsons you don't see the actors, I know this guy plays lots of the voices. When I see him, I don't think of a certain movie like you do. I just kind of like, oh, that's the guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Well, he's sitting at the table and he keeps like having this like nervous laugh, and it is so very close to sounding like Chief Wiggum. It was like I'm just waiting for him to just get nasally, and
I did not pick up on, or I didn't connect it to that, but I was cringing so hard during this scene with his constant nervous laughing. And then, and he's talking about, I mean, he's trying to get in good with the kids. It's not awful necessarily, but he's telling Sam like, oh, I should take you to like the Smithsonian because you like this and that, whatever. And like, he's, to his credit, he is like trying with the kids. But then after he gets the glass of wine spilled on him, he says something like, oh, first date jitters. And I'm like, this is your first date? Having dinner with her children?
Yeah, I guess. I don't. Who's going to watch the kids as they go out? I don't know. I don't know.
You shut up.
It was so annoying. They had spinach in his teeth. Bud. All right, I'm done.
Okay. It sounds like almost threatening when it's not coming from a cartoon. So like, I need you to not. But we cut to Teeny sneaking out on our roof, where I think this is when she says that like her parents never pay attention to her like anyway, they never like know where she is. I know this is not the point because she's having this like heart to heart with, I want to say Sam, because Sam like gets up on the roof with her, but she can see the drive-in from her roof and she's watching Love Story like on the drive-in screen. And I was like, no, it's not the point, but that's pretty cool.
It's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm assuming the the point is that she's lonely because her parents are MIA or just don't give her any attention. And she's an only child, which makes it worse.
I mean, yeah, like she's obviously lonely.
Yeah. Well, in Stand By Me, Gordy feels that way because they're so reminiscent of older brother Denny, even when he was alive. It's like they just had a favorite. And I feel like it's worse for Teeny being an only child, who's like should be the center of the parents' universe. It just is not.
Yeah, you would think as the parent of an only child, we spend a lot of time with our child. So he
Right.
would not let us get away with having it any other way. So um, Devon Sawa runs into Roberta because she's at her house playing basketball. He's like cutting across lawns or something. They end up sitting on a bench swing together, and it's obvious that at least that he likes her. I don't know if we're getting the same rating from her just yet, but one of them says, "I always thought you hated me," and the other says, "So did I." And then eventually it leads to him asking if he can kiss her, and she's like, "Okay." And the way he lunges right at her and is like, "Great." Like right in her face. Like,
Oh, now.
and then they do have this like quick little peck. And I just love this whole scene because it's so accurate. Like the way, like how nervous they are, the way they're like, "Okay, I'm going to get ready to kiss you now." Like it's very 12-year-old.
Yes. And she threatens his life
Yes.
that he's not to tell anybody. And his reaction is pretty great because you could tell his bubble has just been popped. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's like so let down. He's like, oh, I like this girl and I gave her a kiss and
Hmm.
no one's allowed to know because I'm going to get my ass beat.
Yeah. You have a note in here about them being together in Casper. And I guess we'll talk about this whenever we talk about Casper. But in the interviews
Yeah.
I read with Devon Sawa, he was like, "Yeah, people would like talk about me kissing her in Now and Then." And then like the line in Casper where he's like, "Can I keep you?" Like people would use that in real life and they'd tell him they use that line in real life. He's like, he was like, "Really? Because that sounds really creepy in real life. Why would you say that to a woman?"
Um, People be dumb.
Yep. I feel like it's when people romanticize the vampire in Twilight, like watching the girl sleep, and they're like, "Actually, in real life, that's really creepy."
Yes,
Yeah. But this is when Sam and Teeny are in, I want to say it's a model of the treehouse
it has to
because
be,
they're
right?
in a treehouse, but it's like on the ground and like they don't own it
It's
yet.
not
Like,
furbished.
yeah. So they're basically, they go hang out in the treehouse. They're talking about which one they would eat for food if they were stranded. And I just thought this was funny considering Christina Ricci is on Yellow Jackets now. But also the
Yeah.
way that, is it Sam? One of them immediately is like Chrissy. And it's like, there's more of her. Like, damn it,
Yes.
guys.
I will say though, in real life, if you have a friend that's different and you are friends, you do make fun of each other.
Yeah.
Me and my friends did. I would, if someone asked me that, I had to pick out of my friends who I'd eat, I'd pick the bigger one, and I'd for the same reason. We'd make that joke, and someone would make a joke about someone being small, and it felt very accurate to me because
Fair.
she's hesitant too. She's like, I don't want to answer that question. It's like, well, you have to. Fine, Chrissy. I get it. It's not quite mean. It's a little innocent, but it's like it's not exactly nice either.
Yeah. I would say though, like, Chrissy is already annoying. I'd eat her just because, like, I wouldn't want to be in that situation with her.
Oh God, yeah, I
Could
can
you
see that too.
imagine? Like, imagine if
Mm,
Chrissy as a character was on Yellow Jackets.
gone.
Yeah, gone. Immediately gone.
So after their talk of cannibalism among friends,
Like you do.
it's yeah, Sam reveals her home situation like fully to Teeny,
Hmm.
and they're comforting each other. Because Teeny talks about her parents suck.
Hmm.
And I think Sam says something about, I wish my life was like, or my parents were like, blah, blah, blah on TV. And then
Hmm.
Teeny starts listing off all these people on television, these families, these fake families that so and so, widower, so and so, widower, so and so,
Hmm.
widower. So, like, her point is no family is perfect, not even the ones you think are perfect on TV.
Yeah.
my reaction was, wow, we make fun of Disney all the time for the whole one parent thing. And
Yeah.
clearly that's just a staple in fiction, I guess, to really make conflict is to have one parent.
Yeah, it's a good point too, especially because, well, we didn't grow up with a lot of the shows they're mentioning, obviously. So I was not as familiar with all the dynamics of these TV families. But even like the Brady Bunch, like that's always thrown around like, oh, they're like this perfect big family, like the Brady Bunch. But it's like, oh, yeah, they were a blended family. And why did they have to remarry? Because they were widows. Like, you forget
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, it made me think about like the sitcoms I grew up watching. And I was like, wait, was everyone a widower on those shows too?
Let's see. Full House, widower. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Such a
I
good
probably could
point.
stop there as an example. Yeah.
Family Matters, that there wasn't anything going on different there, right?
No, no, no.
Um, God, what did I even watch? I guess,
Home
oh, Step
Improvement.
by
No.
Step. They were a blended family.
That was like a modern Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
We have two examples. Good enough.
Yeah, it's fine.
Moving on.
Well, I'm trying to think of like what sitcoms did I watch? And then I'm just thinking of like Nickelodeon shows I watched. I'm like, that doesn't count. Sam and Teeny like bond over this, like sort of this realization that like no one's family is perfect or everyone has their things that they're like carrying around and dealing with. And
Right.
Teeny like gives Sam some beads that she wears. It's almost like she splits them. And so they
Hmm.
both have part of it. So it starts storming. And I already thought this was funny because they were like, let's get out of here. It's storming. And it's like, I don't know. You would have been like fine in the treehouse probably. Like just stay in the treehouse.
Yeah. I guess when you're little,
You
though,
think like I should go home because it's storming?
yeah, they don't have the thought process maybe to let's wait and see if it passes. Like, oh no, we got to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. I had completely forgotten about this part.
I did as well. Yeah. So they leave the treehouse and it's downpouring, and they're like riding through the center of this little town, this Gaslight Edition or whatever it's called. And because of the context of the movies, I mentioned this before, different other movies come to mind. In this scene specifically, I'm thinking of the old town in It when they were, the little kids, because I think it's a setting situation.
Yeah.
And it starts storming. And for some reason, Sam's bracelet falls off, probably because it's storming. And it also was originally a necklace that was broken in two, so whatever. And it falls down a sewer. And I'm just going to read my notes. This town reminds me of It. Must be the time period. OMG, speaking of It, she climbs in the sewer? Sam, GTFO. Pennywise is coming. Oh, great. Now it's flooding. I'm expecting to see a paper boat go by.
Yep.
This is how I watch movies.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I've seen like parts of it. I'm definitely not as familiar with it as you are. But even for me, when I see like water rushing by a sewer like that, I expect to see a paper boat go by.
Thank you. The sewer she climbs into is almost identical to both versions of It, just like that big open grate.
Yeah.
And then even when she's in there, the point of view from her looking out to Teeny, I was like, oh my God, like expecting to see like a white face behind her when the camera goes back.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like creepy in general. It's like a creepy space to be in general. And also, yeah, I think even with me not being like super familiar with it as a story, creepy sewer, that's what I think of. That's just like the pop culture reference, I think, at this point. It's, yeah. And also, what the hell is she doing crawling in this sewer in the first place? I understand you're upset about your bracelet, but like, what the fuck? To your point, what the fuck? I could not believe this was happening. Like I said, totally forgot about this scene, about all of it. And then poor Teeny, too, is just like, she's like, I'll go get help. And she's just panicking and like screaming the word help and just pounding on the manhole cover. Cause like, what is she going to do? But yeah,
We don't know what time it is because it's night and it just seems like the whole town is shut down.
So I thought about that too. Like maybe the girls had snuck out, which seems reasonable, honestly. Also, it's a small town. Things probably closed early. And also the weather's bad, which I could
These
see
are
these
all
people
good
being like, oh, a
factors.
storm's coming. I'll lock up the shop and go home. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, basically Crazy Pete pops in, saves the day, gets her out of the sewer. Just happens to be riding his bike by, I think, but I could be wrong about that.
He just was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a night owl.
Yes. And I said, like, of course, Crazy Pete saved her because immediately when we were introduced to his character, I'm like, oh, here's the Boo Radley of this story. You know, it's like, oh, of course he ends up being like a nice guy. We have some brief conversation between him and I want to say Teeny, maybe Sam as well, but they're like, why do you only come out at night? Like, why don't you just like be a part of society, basically? And
Yeah.
he's like, I don't think people want to see me. I think I make them uncomfortable. And he says something like, I spent a lot of time thinking maybe I don't want to be around people either. There's an explanation for it later, but I understand like this kind of vague answer is what an adult would give a child, right? But it
Yeah.
drove me crazy that the girls didn't at least say thank you. Like,
Yeah.
and then the narration says, we caught a glimpse of a hero in Crazy Pete that day. And it's like, that feels like an understatement. A glimpse of a hero. He saved your friend from drowning.
No, he saved her from drowning. This is
Oh,
Sam
yeah, because she's the
narrating.
one doing the narration. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. He could have been like, thanks, Crazy Pete. Like something. Nothing.
Just
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. Definitely still gives me old man Marley vibes because it's like the church scene almost. It's like, I'm not
Yes.
such a bad guy. Then bye. I'm going to go. Okay. Thanks, formerly creepy old man. That's still not uncreepy, but helpful.
Yeah, well, because there's still a creep factor because he's like, you know, still looking unkempt and only comes out at night.
Yes.
I think this is when we cut to this scene where the girls are painting, I think one of their garages. They were going to do it to get more tree house money. And
Yeah.
Devon Sawa walks by. Well, all of them walk by, and he and Roberta kind of share a look. And I,
Yeah.
I don't know, like a little secret thing between them. And Roberta kind of likes a boy now. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a little secret look, and one of the girls say he's such a weirdo, and she sticks up for him. Like, oh, maybe he's just a nice kid after all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sam, the narrator, says, that was the day Roberta stopped taping her boobs.
Yeah.
Fair.
Also, three of them are painting the garage. Chrissy is
Oh, yeah.
sitting down eating a Twinkie because she gets faint if she doesn't eat every so often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just not really necessary.
Some of the jokes are like, okay, fun. Like it makes sense. But like the jokes that the girls make to their friend, I don't
Mhm.
mind that as much. But then like as a plot device, as a
The
visual joke,
characterization, yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's too much. There's a borderline.
Yeah.
She's just like, yeah, she's just lounging by eating a Twinkie.
So the girls go over to Cloris Leachman's house, who we see again. Beautiful house, by the way. I love her house.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma confirms that something terrible did happen to dear Johnny and his mom, but refuses to talk about any of it. She says it's the kind of thing you don't want to hear about. And I wrote, think again, Grandma, because that's literally why they're there.
Yes. I mean, they do witchcraft or, 12-year-old version of it.
Yeah, what they think is witchcraft. Toys R Us
Right.
witchcraft.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair.
But so I thought this was so odd, though, that, well, I guess we can talk about how her grandma has them come over, serve some drinks, and is like, hurry up, I got to go to bingo.
Yeah, apparently grandma's a gambler. She has a poker club and some
Mm-hmm.
bingo clubs, I guess. So they come over and she
Yeah.
serves them drinks, like you said, and some cookies. And as soon as they take one sip, she's like, oh, I gotta go. And she just frantically starts taking stuff from them and cleaning the house. She's like vacuuming real quick.
Yep.
And literally like is scooching them out of the front door.
Well, because her ride pulls up and it's two other little old ladies who are like in a getaway car.
Yeah, it is a top down, probably Cadillac. I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
These grannies are looking pretty cool on the way to bingo. And I know this doesn't happen, but in my head, I can see like grandma like jumping over and into the car, and because they do speed
Yes,
away, they do peel out.
they do.
That part did happen.
Yeah. No, in my head, I was like, I could see her just like, yeah, like leaping to the car, like, go, go, go. Because like they do
Like
speed
putting on some
away.
shades or something.
Yep. But what
Come
I
on, girls, we're playing bingo.
but what I thought was so odd though is that the younger girls who are left behind are like, I bet she has stuff in her attic about Dear Johnny. Cause like then we see them kind of getting onto her roof so they can crawl into the window of her attic. And I guess I know there's a mention of how like the grandpa who has since passed away could not let go of that case or something like that. The grandma says something about her husband's interest in it. So I don't know if that's why they got the idea to sneak into the attic, but it just seemed like such a long
Yeah.
shot to me.
She had mentioned that grandpa was like basically a hoarder. Like he didn't get rid of anything
Oh, right. Okay.
and used to collect newspaper articles or something like that. I was just more wondering like why they're doing this dangerous like stack furniture, like lawn furniture to climb up into the attic. We didn't see grandma lock the front door, and also like did people lock the front door in 1970 in this like tight little community that they have?
Yeah,
I feel like they could have just walked right back in the house. I don't know.
maybe. No, what's the fun in that?
I guess, yeah.
Just like texting. It's too easy.
All right, good point.
They get into the attic. They find a bunch of like stuff. Eventually come across this newspaper article about Dear Johnny and his mom being murdered. They said something about like they use their last name and then they say the husband and father, Peter, whatever, found them later, came home, found them murdered. They think it was like a traveling robber or something that maybe was startled and murdered them. I was like, okay, obviously Crazy Pete is the dad and husband in this situation, correct?
Yes.
Chrissy says something like, if something that horrible can happen here in Shelby, in their town, imagine what it must be like out there. And I wrote that I feel like Chrissy is the only one that maybe hasn't had her awakening, so to speak, that like bad things happen there too. No one's home life is perfect. Like, Um, I feel like she had a little moment of like, oh, maybe my mom doesn't know everything, but not to the extent that the other girls have.
No, no.
Because hers is like more goofy, like, oh, my mom thinks sex is like a watering can or whatever. Like hers is just, oh, my mom's misinformed, but not in a way that's upsetting to her.
Well, her mom's misinformed, not my mom is misinforming me.
Mm-hmm. That too, yeah.
Where in this scene, as it continues, and Berta has a breakdown, and she is mad at her father for lying, which is much different than saying my mom had misinformation and passed it on to me.
Right. You're right, yes. But yes, this is when Roberta really gets upset about her dad told her her mom's death was quick. She didn't suffer. Like, this brings on this whole thing in Roberta where she's like finally letting all that out and she's crying and she broke grandma's mirror, which I was like, oh God, they're not going to be able to say they weren't up there now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a little extreme.
Yep. But yeah, so they go back to the cemetery. I thought they were going to put it together that, you know, Peter in this article was Crazy Pete, but like they don't.
Yeah, apparently not. No.
They go back to the cemetery to try to reach Dear Johnny again and be like, we know what happened to you. It's okay, blah, blah, blah. They start seeing like a bright light and a floating tombstone. And they're like, oh my God, he's really here. And like they're freaking out.
Mm-mm.
It ends up being like a employee of like a groundskeeper or whatever of the cemetery who's placing a new tombstone to fix the broken one. And they're like, the girls are all babbling about how they brought Dear Johnny back. They broke his tombstone. And he's like, no, you didn't. And they're like, well, then how did it get broken? And he's like, I knocked it over with my tractor. And the way he says it is like, duh.
I suck at my job, obviously.
Obviously.
Whoops.
Yep.
I don't know if we pointed out though before we end the attic scene when they're all upset. That's when they make the pact.
Oh, of course. Led by
Yeah,
Chrissy.
of course.
She's like, remember that thing I
Um,
said when I was 12, guys? How could you forget?
in the attic when we were all upset about our parents lying to us and some
Roberta's
murdered
mom
kid.
dying. Yeah. Yeah. And this murder case, unsolved
Yeah.
murder case.
Now I get why Sam's pissed. Adult Sam.
Why? Because this was all too much.
Well, like we made this pact. It was all out of duress.
I was just
Now
going to
she's like,
say a lot was going on. It was a stressful situation. There's a lot
right,
of big emotions.
exactly.
Yeah. Then decades later, Sam's like, oh, wait, you were serious about that? Yep.
I'm putting the puzzle pieces together now.
There you go. But we end basically the childhood part of this, like the flashback, which is like the main movie of them finally buying their tree house, but it's like bittersweet because the voiceover is telling us that sort of they realized the ways that they're different and maybe like growing apart a little bit, which that happens. But
Hmm.
again, not really giving me the impression that you all stayed really close friends for all these years because you're already talking about like kind of going in different directions. But we come back to the present with only about 10 minutes left in the movie. And this is the point where I was like, wow, I really thought that the grown up actresses had more screen time, but they definitely do not.
They do not.
If you watch the trailer, it pretty much shows everything that goes on with the grown up actresses.
Yeah, I agree. You had that note early on, and I was like, "Oh, really?" And then I watched the movie and go, "Erase that note I put there."
Yeah.
It's I get it now.
Yeah. And again, it's been so long since I had seen this and I didn't remember a lot of it. I guess I thought there was more back and forth between the timelines, and there definitely isn't. I was completely misremembering that. Yes, we go back to the grown-ups. Chrissy has gone into labor. Of course, her husband is not there. He's stuck at work. So her girlfriends are going to help her deliver her baby.
Yeah,
They have to drive her to the hospital in the limo because why not?
I don't know why. Sam's really running around frantically, and she tries to get in her car, but someone else's car is behind hers. So like, let's just take the limo, and then they tell the limo driver to get out because apparently Berta drives faster than he does. We don't know how. I don't know. It's just to get the three girls in the back while Berta's driving, and we get a lot of funny little Rosie O'Donnell one-liners as she's driving really fast through this town that she grew up and still lives in. She's like, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, waving to people and just being Rosie O'Donnell.
It's funny because at this part, I forgot that she was also going to be delivering the baby. Yes, obviously, I remember her getting behind the wheel, but it was just like, she's really doing all the heavy lifting here. She's like, I will drive you because I'm better than this driver and then I will deliver your baby. Like, what can't she do?
I don't know.
Yep.
It's probably the
um,
mayor.
I know, right? There's a bit in the hospital where Chrissy's like, no swearing around my baby because I can't remember. One of them's like, oh, damn, or something. And she's like, she says that. And then I was like, well, Chrissy has not changed at all.
I forget who says it, but one of them says shit.
Oh,
And I
okay.
only know that because she says, "Don't swear by my baby," and then the next cut is going shit, and she's like forcing this
Yep.
human out of her.
I will say, I thought this birth scene was like so tame, especially considering she is not on any kind of pain medication. Because we learned that she's like, oh my God, give me the drugs. And they're like, it's too late. The baby's coming. I understand there's that one bit where she yells shit really loud, but like, I was like,
Yeah,
this is going along like very nicely and quietly for the most part. And
yeah, yeah. Well, this isn't important. I mean, we already did the important part of the movie. This is just kind of like the closure, I guess.
sure.
What she does when she says like, "Oh, it's too late for the drugs. The baby's coming." Chrissy responds, "Is it a boy or girl?" And Berta is like, "It's just a head."
Yeah, that was
I
good.
thought that was a good Rosie O'Donnell line as well.
Then her husband comes in. She's already holding the baby and they're like, am I too late? And one of the girls is like, no, no. And it's like, no, he absolutely is too late. The baby is here. Like, what are you talking about?
I was more concerned with he wasn't there because he was getting a root canal. I'm like, well, he got there, albeit late, but still pretty fast considering I would assume he's still kind of heavily medicated.
So I thought he was a dentist and he was doing a root canal.
Oh, maybe you're right. I just remember them saying he's in the middle of a root canal. I was like, oh,
Yeah, see, I
that sucks
thought
for him.
her rich
Yeah.
doctor that she married was a dentist.
Yeah. I mean, that does make sense. The way it was said, I didn't take it that way. And that makes way more sense.
I feel like, honestly, like all of this with them as adults fell flat for me because, I already discussed the issues I had with the beginning of them not really seeming like they were that good of friends anymore. And then, like, I don't know, the birth scene is just like hokey and it's really fast. And I realize it's like, this isn't trying to be like a realistic portrayal of childbirth or anything like that. It just, I
Sure.
feel like I
Yeah.
almost could have done without the childbirth scene, just like rush her to the hospital and then the baby's here, whatever. It just, it felt so flat to me because they just don't seem like they're all like in tune with each other. I don't know how else to say it really.
Yeah. Unless the only thing I can think of is this maybe a necessary labor scene
Hmm.
kind of brings them back together because
Sure.
they're all experiencing this together because it's normal to have like your long friendship overdue visit in a hospital where you're giving birth at the same time. Like, are they allowed to be in that room? I don't think so.
I was
Mm,
just going to say it works out really well that Roberta's her doctor because at
mhm.
least when I gave birth, you can only have two people in the room. So she had her two people plus her doctor. That's
Yeah,
why
and
Roberta
also works
had to
out.
be the doctor.
Yeah, works out that her husband was busy giving and or receiving a root canal.
Oh God. Um,
Uh,
yes. So, okay, I did think it was cute that they're like all in the treehouse together then with the baby. Cause like
mhm.
this is totally something that my friends and I will do. Like, let's go do this thing when we were kids, but like bring our kids to experience it. Or like I'm still doing like the same thing I would do with my friends, except like now there's a baby hanging out and a bouncer. Like it's just this hit as like such a real life thing to me at like this stage of my life. But I wrote that like Rita Wilson, everything she says, she really does sound like younger Chrissy. I think like she might
Yeah.
have done the best job imitating the younger version of her. But I also think like younger Chrissy also just had like such a specific way that she spoke
Mhm.
that like you had to be more spot on with her anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that pairing the best, I guess. And then I feel Teeny was pretty good, adult mimicking
Hmm.
child. The other two, they're just there. They have dark hair and dark eyebrows and dark eyes, and I don't see much of stylistic choice in acting to mimic
Yeah.
the younger girls,
Hmm.
especially Rosie O'Donnell, who has never left this town for some reason, still has her very iconic New York accent, and even some of her lingo. I'm like, this just sounds like Rosie O'Donnell being Rosie O'Donnell. I didn't like when I was younger. I thought it was cool because I knew Christina Ricci and
Right.
Rosie O'Donnell more than the other actresses in the
Hmm.
movie. So I'm like, oh well, that's cool for me because they're the ones I recognize the most. So that's a cool pairing. And now I'm like, it doesn't make as much sense.
Maybe Roberta went to like New York for med school.
Okay, and developed an accent. Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe this is why Rosie O'Donnell was like, no, really, I'm not right for this role in the first place.
I mean,
Um,
she was fine. Performance was fine. I'm
right.
just
Yeah.
nitpicking the accent and mannerisms. Or maybe she's not fine. I don't know.
No, I thought she was fine, but like, I get what you're saying.
They're in a treehouse and they're just kind of revealing more about their lives. And you brought this up way earlier where they didn't know Teeny had like three marriages or whatever.
Yeah.
Clearly stayed in contact there. I think Sam has mentioned she's had a relationship here or there, but she's not really. And she's just like lonely all the time. Berta kind of like sympathizes with her, and she mentioned that she's always lonely, and they kind of, or like the fact that they're like not married, they don't have what seems to me they both don't have a solid foundation of a relationship they think is going to last a long time.
Sure, yeah.
And Berta's like, well, it's lonely, isn't it? And they have this look with each other, and this is where, again, watching it the other night, not knowing that she's supposed to be gay, I was like, are they gonna? Is she gonna like confess that she's loved her the whole time or something like that? Like, are we gonna get? Because I don't remember the scene at all.
Yeah.
And now, knowing what I know now that I didn't know then, I can see it. Like, it makes total sense.
And I also thought it was odd that Sam kind of has this whole revelation about how she behaves in relationships and maybe like self-sabotages a little bit, like shoehorned into the last 5 minutes of this movie
Yeah. Yeah.
when they're also just sort of reminiscing about other things. It's just odd because then right after that, they bring up Dear Johnny and Crazy Pete. And apparently, Sam never mentioned to anyone else that Crazy Pete was the dad and husband, which we don't even see her put that together in the flashback. Like, we as the viewer, like I said, like the guy's name is Peter. Like, okay, that explains why Crazy Pete kind of retreated from society because
No,
his family was murdered. Oh, no,
well, we do see
sorry.
that. We
Yeah.
didn't finish the graveyard scene, actually. So what we do see at the very end of the very long flashback, at the end of the grave scene, the girls ride away and Sam stays behind because she did piece it together.
Hmm.
Because we see, as they're leaving, we see Crazy Pete come back and he's like going to a grave. Like, let's just leave him alone this time. Teeny says that, because he just saved her best friend. So they
Right.
leave. Sam stays behind. She says she forgot something. And what she does is like pick flowers and give it to Pete. She obviously knows what happened. He kind of gives a little story. He gives her some like kind of fatherly advice about don't dwell on things too long,
Hmm.
which didn't. It was like some like good advice I thought was gonna come out in the adult Sam, and she's just like, I'm bad at relationships. I'm like, okay, that's not what he said at all.
I know. I thought that too.
I
But
thought there was going to be more of a point there, but
now that you
there
bring that
wasn't.
up, though, this is what's not realistic about this movie. The fact that Sam almost died and neither her or Teeny tell anyone about it. Like, do you know how fast my girlfriends and I would all be like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened to me. Oh my God, this. Oh my God, that.
Oh yeah,
Also, the fact that Sam had this whole realization about Crazy Pete, number one, and then had a conversation with him, number two, like, I cannot believe she didn't tell any of the girls. They were this like
right.
tight knit group of friends that went on this adventure together to solve this mystery. And like this was kind of a big piece of the mystery. And she just never told anyone for decades.
Yeah, because she tells him now in the treehouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, Teeny says that she was always sending him money every year. And like just last year, it got returned to her. And they were like, yeah, because Crazy Pete passed away. I realized because at first I was like, oh, she's sending him money because like she felt bad about, because he lost his family. And then I was like, no, it's because he saved Sam because she didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know that he was part of that family until right now. And I was just like getting everything mixed up. But I can't believe that they spent the whole summer trying to figure out this Dear Johnny thing. And Sam just sat on that information.
Kind of selfish.
I mean, sure, but also I just like that's not believable to me. Like
No. Well,
my
I don't
group
know.
of
The
friends and I, we
last,
told each other everything, especially something like that.
yeah, the last thing we really see, either right after she talks to Pete or before she talks to Pete and the girls drive away on their bikes, she takes all her witchy seance stuff and she just throws it all in the garbage,
Hmm.
which to me like signifies like the age of innocence is gone. Like they've
Sure, yeah.
are not adults anymore, obviously, but they're not innocent children. They realize that they're not doing this silly stuff anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so did when she realized Pete was the husband slash father, did that not matter anymore because of this realization that she needs to stop fooling around with this children? I don't know. Is they
Yeah.
had this big moment with Sam and her like realizing she doesn't need to act like a child anymore. The seance stuff isn't real. Bad groundskeepers break tombstones. I guess they didn't really solve the murder. They just solved the mystery of what happened to Dear Johnny.
Yeah.
But then she realized it was Crazy Pete was his dad. Yeah, I don't know. Like they have these big moments, boom, 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 and then they sit on him for 25 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. And then the very last bit of this movie, which I'm sorry is also not realistic to me, is that they all go play Red Rover. The unrealistic part is that Chrissy, newly postpartum, is going to go play Red Rover where people run into her.
Yes, I thought the same thing. I was like,
Okay.
"There's no way." Also, where's the baby? Is the baby playing?
Is the baby playing? No, he's in the bouncer while you do your regular activities. It's just the baby comes along now.
The the newborn baby's in a bouncer.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I was to say like a little too fresh
No,
for
you could put
bouncing,
them
huh?
in one of those like chairs where they like lean back and they're just,
Sure. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean. No.
The baby's the ref for the Red Rover game.
Jesus. That's it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. The ending and the rest of the grown up bits just like fell flat for me.
Yeah. The credits roll, and I like how they did the credits for the 8 actors who played the 4 girls because it doesn't say
Mm-hmm.
young Berta, old Berta, or whatever. It just says Roberta, both actresses' names, and so on and so forth. They're like lumped together as the character and they're not separate, which is kind of cool. You don't really see that when they have flashback movies.
Yeah. I thought that too, actually.
Obviously, you mentioned Brendan Fraser isn't credited,
Yeah.
and I wasn't watching for that because I kind of already knew looking at your notes kind
Mm-hmm.
of while watching the movie. I was just kind of seeing what else I would find. And I didn't realize the baby didn't have a name because it's credited as just baby. And I just chuckled pretty hard watching these credits roll by, like
That's fine.
baby played by the baby's real name, obviously, but it
Right.
was just baby.
That's
And I don't
funny.
think I've ever seen that before either.
No. Okay. So Now and Then had a $12 million budget. It grossed $37.5 million. It was considered financially successful, especially for New Line Cinemas. That was considered a pretty big success for them. But the critical response was pretty negative. Lots of comparisons to Stand By Me in particular. There was a lot of praise for the young actresses, but just a lot of nitpicking about how the story falls flat and emotional moments are shoehorned in or things feel trite. The reviews were really, really not nice about things. There was a lot of criticism of that scene with Brendan Fraser and how it seemed to a lot of critics to be this like heavy-handed way to make the movie more serious or something. But I guess to me, and like again, I'm probably biased because I was very excited to see Brendan Fraser, but I feel like you're talking about this like a coming of age movie. This is them getting this little window into like the real world, like the out there, like Chrissy says.
Hmm.
And I realize it's probably not as poignant as it could be, but like they're 12. They don't know what to ask him other than to parrot the things they've already heard, right? So
Right.
I actually, to me, I was like, if you really want to consider this a coming of age movie, like that's how they like grow up a little bit. They learn. This is like just more of the whole like adults don't know everything. Adults don't always tell you the truth kind of thing.
Yeah. If we're doing the Stand By Me comparison, this is when they're camping out and, oh my God, River Phoenix's character, Chris, he kind of breaks down, cries, and also either right after or right before, there's a scene with him and Gordy. He talks about how his parents don't know shit because Gordy's a good kid and
Mhm.
the parents don't know everything. And, he goes on to talk about everyone's parents and how dumb or messed up they all are. And,
Yeah.
you can't trust adults. And same, it's the same thing. I mean, it was a little different or a little odd, I should say, that, Brendan Fraser just kind of like saunters over to a tractor and like starts passing out cigarettes
To 12-year-old
and
girls, I know.
12-year-old girls. And it's just like good looking young former soldier just hanging out with these underage kids. It's like
Yeah.
this could read a different way. If the scene goes on too
Yes,
long.
yes.
It was a little weird, but I don't know. I feel like maybe just overthinking gets you nowhere sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to compare something like this to Stand By Me. I understand that because, like, we were doing that in our heads while we were watching it. But I feel like if you're looking at it as a critic, not every coming of age movie is just like a weaker version of Stand By Me. Like, it's the
Right.
kids are going through totally different situations.
I find it funny that we are comparing this movie to Stand By Me and others. I mean, we've mentioned, seeing the attic reminded me of the Goonies.
Mhm.
Seeing the sewer reminded me of, it, but when they were kids, obviously, et cetera, et cetera. And we're doing it not to like categorize and say, well, this is a weaker version of this movie. I feel like we're doing it in a way to uplift this movie. I'm like, yeah, these are all good movies because they make me feel this way. They feel accurate to some degree or caliber
Yeah.
for a 12-year-old coming of age.
Yep. So that all being said, because the critical response was so bad, it was predicted to be a bomb, but like we said, did pretty well, modest hit. I feel like there's just that surprise, women go to movies kind of thing, like we've talked about with other female ensemble movies. This quote from Marlene King: I remember my mom calling me and saying that Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down, and she was so upset. I was like, oh, mom, they're just two old dudes. They're not going to get it, and the audience will. And then the second half is, I included this because of it being similar to, like I said, we discussed this with other movies like The First Wives Club. That's why still I think these movies just don't get made. Women love a certain thing and girls love a certain thing. And people in studios still don't understand what a great marketplace that is to explore. And they're still not tapping into it.
How many times are we gonna have this conversation?
Yeah.
um, and it worked. It was a success for New Line. They
Hmm.
tripled their budget, so at least they didn't go in the negative.
No, I mean, it's the same thing. Like I said, we talked about it with Clueless. We talked about it with The First Wives Club. It's like, there's too many girls. There's not enough boys. And then it ends up being a hit. And they're like, oh my God, like women go to movies?
Right.
I don't know.
Not just rom coms.
Right. We always have these stories where they like do better than expected at the box office, usually much, much better. And they usually end up having this really good second life on home video or streaming or whatever because people turn them into like their own comfort movies and they rewatch them. And but that's what happened to Now and Then. Like it was a modest hit, but then the people who liked this movie kept watching it on home video or they would find it on cable. And we've seen this before on cable too, things that aren't necessarily huge hits or that do poorly. It's cheaper to air them on TV than like to get rights to a big hit movie. So
Right.
something like Hocus Pocus, like it was on TV a lot and audiences found it there and watched it all the time. This one in particular, there was a lot of mention of it being added to Netflix in 2020 and like it blew up in 2020. There was so much discussion of Now and Then on social media, Twitter in
Huh.
particular. I feel like that's the first instance we've heard about something kind of having a very specific resurgence or period of rediscovery because of streaming. Also, 2020, like everyone's probably stuck at home. They're like, what's this movie with all these actresses I know? So,
Right.
but
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. But like I said, it wasn't necessarily, not a hit when it came out. So our screenwriter, Marlene King, She went on to create the TV show Pretty Little Liars. I loved Pretty Little Liars when it was on. I got so into it. I knew her name from Pretty Little Liars. I had no idea she was a screenwriter for Now and Then until we did this episode. I don't necessarily think of them as similar, other than there is a core group of 4 girls in Pretty Little Liars. However, that is based off a book series, so it's not necessarily Marlene King's like own original creation, but they're solving the mystery of their friend who went missing, may or may not have
Okay.
been murdered. There's like a 5th friend, and they're trying to solve this crime over, multiple seasons of this TV show. It is a lot darker. It's supposed to be a mystery. It's obviously still like goofy because it was like a teen drama on ABC Family.
Oh, okay.
A lot more texting involved in that one. Um,
Good.
yeah. Marlene King had Leslie Linka Glatter direct a few episodes of Pretty Little Liars. In particular, she directed the pilot episode and 2 of the season finales.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I like that they had this little reunion. And like we've touched on, Leslie Linka Glatter went on to have like this huge career in television. But I guess they collaborated on the pilot because there were quotes of them saying that they both really wanted Pretty Little Liars to feel like Now and Then meets Twin Peaks for teenage girls. And I could
Okay.
kind of see it, having watched, both this movie and the TV show. But Pretty Little Liars is also credited with some of the resurgence of popularity for Now and Then because obviously, like, this big hit show, and also because there's a central mystery of what happened to this, 5th friend that they're looking for who might have died. All the main girls start getting texts from a stalker who is named A. The missing girl is named Allison. So they're like, is this Allison? Is this someone else? Is this someone who like killed Allison? Like there's a big mystery element, and that's part of what made the show such like a pop culture thing, because people would be sharing their theories and stuff about like who did what. And
Of course.
because of that, they would always be talking to someone like Marlene King, who's like the showrunner, the creator of the show, being like, okay, like what hints can you give us? Like what clues are in what episodes? And so it would come up that she's also was the writer for Now and Then. And that led to people going back and rediscovering that movie, like younger girls who were watching Pretty Little Liars. Because I was in college when it came out. I'm pretty sure I was in college when that show started. So there were girls even younger than that who were like in middle school and high school watching it, who they then went back to discover this older movie.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense too, because if I'm watching something that I'm into and then someone involved quotes something they've worked on before or about it or whatever, I'm probably going to look into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think Christina Ricci was still pretty popular. Like, I know she kind of has a resurgence now because of Yellow Jackets, but I feel like she was still a known actress. Gabby Hoffman also like went on to have like a really big acting career, and not saying that she would be well known to people who were like teenagers when Pretty Little Liars was on, but like these girls, some of them were still in popular culture. So it's like, oh, I'll go back and watch this movie when they were like literally kids.
I can't think of a time when Christina Ricci wasn't, even if she wasn't making a lot of movies or they were popular
Mhm.
movies, but she wasn't well known though.
Same, but also she was so popular when we were growing up. I'm like, I don't know if that's just my impression of things, like, because I've always known who she is.
Yeah, kind of like a nostalgia hangover, if you will.
Sure. So that all being said, I talked about Leslie Linka Glatter, the director, being involved with the TV show Homeland. Claire Danes is the star of Homeland. I don't know if you remember the show. It was Claire Danes. I want to say her character works for the FBI or the CIA. There is a vet who comes home from the war in Afghanistan, and he's being investigated as maybe being like a terrorist, like as if he got turned while he was serving there. Or I think he was like
Okay.
captured by the Taliban, and they're trying to figure out if he's like a bad guy now. Um,
Okay.
but I remember that being a huge hit when it came out. I didn't watch it till later because it was on Showtime. It was on something I did not have at the time,
It's not how it
but
always goes.
I know it was really huge for Claire Danes' career. Like kind of having a career as like an adult actress now. Leslie Linka Glatter was nominated for like Emmys and Directors Guild Awards for working on episodes of Homeland. During that run, she gave an interview saying that Gabby Hoffman is really good friends with Claire Danes. So because she's
Hmm.
working with Claire Danes now, she got to reconnect with Gabby Hoffman as a grown up. And she said it's just like wonderful to see her as an adult and to see her still acting. At the time, Gabby Hoffman was on the show Transparent, which was on Amazon Prime, I believe, with Jeffrey Tambor. But she said, I've been reunited with Gabby, who is so amazing and transparent. As an adult, she's incredible. And to that note, like I said, Gabby Hoffman and Christina Ricci are still very close friends. They've done joint interviews together, like looking back on their careers, especially because now they both have like kind of hit TV shows that they're both on.
Yeah.
On a slightly different note, the Real Gaslight Edition neighborhood in Indiana in 2024 was hit by a tornado, heavily damaged. Marlene King went back to do fundraising and to help with disaster relief for her old neighborhood.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's
Did they fix it up?
I could not find any further information on like how badly it was damaged or if they were able to like get it back into a working neighborhood, I assume, hopefully.
Okay. Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Now and then too, saving the neighborhood.
I'd watch it.
Yep. It would just be like Teeny donating all the money.
As the town's only gynecologist, I still don't know if it has a lot or a little bit of money because of that fact.
You would think she would also be really well off. I don't know.
Small town. So speaking of ABC Family and Pretty Little Liars and some comparisons there,
Mm-hmm.
it was announced by King in 2012 that she was attempting to develop a Now and Then series for ABC Family, but nothing really came to fruition there. According to King, ABC Family wanted to change the concept a little bit. So the now was present day and then would have been the 90s. And she, quote, didn't want to do that. I felt that kind of ruins how special the movie is. I didn't want to take the chance of changing the time period. To me, it was never a 1970s again. So to try to set in the 90s when we had cell phones and things like that, I don't think it would work. She sounds like she should be on this podcast.
Yeah. That's funny.
And as much as I did enjoy the newer 2-part movie of It, I was taken aback, kind of gut punched when I realized it was going to be more modern because of everything Marlene King kind of just said here, where like, yeah, they were in the 90s. Cell phones weren't really that big, especially for kids in 1995. But I do think that's when we start to see what people would call like the age of millennials really start to take fruition, where people did have cell phones and the internet started to be a thing and people's childhood changed differently than how we see it in all these movies we've mentioned.
Yes.
So I can see her point of view because I kind of felt that way as a not screenwriter watching the newer version of It. Although I did like it was spaced out the appropriate amount of years to where the creature would come back, but it's a whole nother conversation and episode.
Okay. I could see the studio being like, well, if we're going to remake it, like push it forward a little bit. I could also see her being like, this isn't what I want to do with like this material that is pretty much solely her creation and like so autobiographical.
Yeah, I was going to say basically so close to her heart.
Yeah. But it's funny because, this was obviously announced in the heyday of like Pretty Little Liars. She was riding high in that success. When I was trying to research this movie, most of what was coming up was this announcement that she was trying to work something out with ABC Family to do a television show, turn it into a show. And it was either articles about this or articles that were like, Now and Then is coming to Netflix. You can revisit this like 90s like coming of age classic. And so I was like, oh, it really was a big deal that it came to Netflix.
It isn't there now. I had to rent the damn thing.
Oh, I had to rent it as well. That being said, would you rent it again? Did it hold up for you?
this one was tough for me because I feel like going into it, I was pretty excited because I like these kind of stories. I
Hmm.
remember liking this as a kid. There were lots of parts I liked watching it, but it was much slower than I remember. And I kind of
Mm.
felt I was kind of being dragged along. I did love the whole, I know like the big plot point of them being little is getting a treehouse and solving Dear Johnny, but specifically the bike ride itself to and from the other town and the library. I remember liking that a lot, and I still do. And I
Hmm.
just kind of thought and all my like memories of the movie was mostly around that, minus like other little jokes and scenes here and there. The end caps, the bookends of them being adults. No, you
Yeah.
have all these big actors, and I was like, did you guys forget your actors, not just producers in this movie? It felt not great performances by them. Like the kids were great. I think
Hmm.
they held up. All four of them. They're believable. They're funny.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's jury's still out because there's a lot of it I watched that brought back the nostalgia factor and triggered my own memories of being that age.
Hmm.
But then as a movie, I was like, this is kind of maybe not as good as I finally remembered it.
So I did not have like really big memories of this movie. It just wasn't something I ended up rewatching a lot when I was younger. Like I have friends who like this is their movie, like how some people think of Stand By Me, like this is their comfort movie, this is their like movie they watch all the time growing up. So I was excited to revisit it just because I had forgotten so much about it. I was really surprised at how little they used the adult versions. And
Yeah.
so I understand their bookends now, like that's fine. But I also just, I couldn't help wanting more from them. But also, I just felt like they weren't given that much to do. And it also was just every time we were with the grown up actresses, it felt so odd because it was either like they didn't exactly seem to like each other or like at the end with Demi Moore's character, they're shoehorning in this like emotional revelation and shoehorning in the, oh, did you know Crazy Pete was Dear Johnny's dad? Like, I
Right.
don't know. And it bummed me out because, like, I did not necessarily have an issue with their performances. I also, like, loved watching these actresses together. I just wish they had had more to do and, like, I don't know, better things to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I loved all the flashback parts. I love the girls, like you said, riding around, listening to the songs they included on the soundtrack. A lot of it was a lot of fun to revisit, but pretty much just with the younger girls. Because everything with the older women just like made me sad.
Yeah. It's almost like we don't need that part. If it was just the girls in the 70s. Like why not? I mean, I guess we get
Yeah.
that with other movies. We get that with the movies we reviewed and movies we've talked about of coming of age where the main character is the narrator and they start as adult and they reflect because for some reason we need to see that as an audience. We can't just have a movie with
Hmm.
kids being kids. I don't know. I guess they're not reflecting on it if there's no adult to be the I don't know, the physical
Yeah.
representation of reflection, I guess.
That is a good point. We do usually see at least a glimpse of them as grown-ups. I don't know. The watching it back, realizing how little the adult actresses had to do, and then also really, as someone who is like their age now, really not being able to identify with the way they see these friendships, how they like act within these friendships. I was like, was this all just a marketing gimmick? And I don't know if it was necessarily because like Marlene King wrote this screenplay before it was, before Demi Moore was put on to produce, whatever. But that's all I could think is like, this doesn't add anything to it for me other than the fact that I like these actresses and I like
Mhm.
it's fun watching them together, but then I don't like that their characters are all like standoffish and don't really seem to be friendly anymore. And it's weird now.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the other point she was making about the cell phones is not only would the kids potentially have some, like, okay, if they made it in the 90s when they were kids, maybe Teeny would have one, let's say,
Sure, yeah.
because, their family has the money and whatnot. But as adults, and I think this is more important now, they would have some and they would be able to, as we've said before, communicate through their adult life. I have friends I don't see all the time. I have friends that live on another side of the country, in another country.
Mhm.
And because of technology, I can communicate with them.
Yeah.
I don't have to like send a pigeon or something.
It's funny because I immediately thought of this time where I was my 2 friends, who we all lived in different states at the time, the ones who came to visit when I had my son and he was a baby. We were out, like, at a concert in a totally different city, like, we all met up in the city for a concert, and we were at, like, a food truck area, and we ended up sharing a table with some people just because there was nowhere else to sit, and we were telling them, like, we've, been friends a really long time. We try to meet up, like, once a year. Like, sometimes we'll pick a concert or something just in some random city and go and meet up there, and they were like, "How have you stayed friends so long?" Because 'Cause we've known each other since elementary school, and we're like, the internet, basically." Like, technology really helped.
The original reason Facebook was created,
Yeah. Imagine that.
not the dumpster fire that it is today.
Yeah. Anything
I'll
else?
retract it if they give us money.
Anything else you would like to add before we wrap this up? All right. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on Now and Then, as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show. And you can now watch us on YouTube at Lucky Card Productions. We'll link everything in our show notes.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our host, Rachel Campbell, and myself, Joe Sielmick, with additional help and support from Peter Telep of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faracci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens.
What are you eating?
Making sure there's no Cheez-It slapped in my mouth.
Oh, okay.
I already have a hard enough time reading out loud.
Reading out
The main character, one word. I kind of like that, actually.